Councilmember Alvarez, extend a virtual handshake. Get us warmed up.
She's on there. Our little honorary council member. She's so cute.
Sorry about that, but she's insisting today. She won't go to sleep. She won't take her binky. Nothing's working. You see that smile?
Sounds familiar to a lot of us, I'm sure.
You need some water. Yep. Let me let her know.
Very good. I'll call the meeting to order. Regular City Council meeting for September 6, 2022. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Mark Joseph.
I'm here.
Councilmember David Oro.
Here.
Councilmember Pierre Washington.
Here.
Vice Mayor Miriam Abudamos.
Here.
Mayor Leon Garcia.
Here. Move on to now report on closed session confirmation of reportable action. Mr. Ross.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, members of the public, your council convened an open session at 5:34 p.m. to see if there were any comments, public comments on the matters agendized for closed session consideration. There was a public comment delivered by Mr. Russ Carpentier with respect to closed session agenda item 1B. After having heard that public comment on matters agendized for closed session consideration and determining that there were no other public comments on the closed session matters, you adjourned to closed session at 5:40 and concluded at 6:34 p.m. I will do a written report on the matters concerning closed session consideration under the provisions of Government Code Section 54957.1. That would conclude the report unless there are questions.
Any questions from council members? No. Seeing none, here none. Thank you, Mr. Ross. We'll continue with our agenda. We'll move on to proclamations and presentations this evening. With great pleasure, State of American Proclamation, Latino Heritage Month, September 15 to October 15, 2022. Whereas, in 1968, President Lyndon B. Johnson first recognized Hispanic Heritage Week, which later expanded under President Reagan to 1 month. And each successive United States president has continued this tradition, including President Barack Obama, who declared September 15 through October 15 to be National Hispanic Heritage Month. And whereas each year, the United States observes National Hispanic Heritage Month by celebrating culture, heritage, countless contributions of the whole ancestors were contributions of those whose ancestors were indigenous to North America, as well as those who came from Spain, Mexico, Caribbean, Central America, South America. And whereas the city of American Canyon has a long history of welcoming immigrants and is home to a growing multi-ethnic, multicultural Latino population. Per the U.S. Census Bureau, in 2021, 29.4% of American Canyon population was Latino or Hispanic. And whereas our diverse Latino population continues to make significant economic contributions and have other profound positive influences on our community through their strong commitment to family, faith, education, hard work, culture, and service. And whereas the city of American Canyon thrives on the diversity and ingenuity of all our people within our community, we continue to be enriched by the transcultural contributions of our Latino friends and neighbors. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Leon Garcia, on behalf of the American Canyon City Council, do hereby proclaim September 15 to October 15, 2022 as Latino Heritage Month in the city of American Canyon. We have a receiver for the proclamation.
We do. We have Ms. Karina Cervente is here to receive it. Thank you.
What are you catching?
Thanks, Karina.
And if you'd like to make some comments.
Thank you so much for including the Hispanics, Latinx, Latinos, whatever you want to call us, here in the city of American Canyon. It's an honor to be part of this special city. It's so diverse, and I'm so proud to be able to bring up Jeff and my son, Lorenzo, who is here, bring him up in this community. It truly is a blessing. For those of you that don't know, I'm from Guatemala, so I'm really proud to showcase my heritage. It's really powerful to have so many great people that work here at the city. Maria Ojeda, who is the assistant city manager to Mr. Holly, Belia Ramos, our supervisor, and Leon Garcia, our mayor. It just showcases, if you look here, it really showcases our diversity here in American Canyon. So thank you so much. And if we can take a picture with you, will that be okay?
Sure.
I brought my flag. I don't have any other flag.
Okay.
But I'll show you a little bit of geography.
Also, we want to come around the front. Go on the front. Yeah.
How many? 2 minutes. Jason. So Guatemala is in Central America, next to Mexico.
He wants a symbol or something up there, a seal or something.
Are you guys getting me in the TV? Should I smile or just watch?
Can you get Vice Mayor Abadamas is in the background?
It's so cool. Thank you for including me.
So, bit of a historical perspective on that. September 15th, just to say that September is also the Independence Day.
Mr. Mayor, I can't hear anything.
Oh, there we go. Thank you.
There we go. Thank you.
September 15 is also the Independence Day for Mexico, 16 de Septiembre. Likewise for Guatemala and El Salvador. And I think there's one or two other Nicaraguan might be a part of that as well. Central America. So we all celebrate the day with a lot of, starting at midnight, with a lot of celebration, flag waving and recognizing what we have all contributed to that process. So thank you for that. Actually, one legacy piece of that we do have here in American Canyon. Village of Vintage Ranch, that huge oak tree in the back that's preserved by action of the city council. was formerly the Tejanos de los Llanos de Zacatecas, the Zacatecan rodeo grounds in American Canyon. So it's a proud monument to cultural heritage in American Canyon as well. All right, we'll move on now. With great pleasure, I have proclamation recognizing American Canyon Fire Protection District proclamation, Community Emergency Response Team CERT Week, September 19 to 23rd, 2022. Whereas the members of the American Canyon CERT program are educated about disaster preparedness for hazards that may impact their area and are trained in basic response skills. And whereas the American Canyon CERT volunteers are trained to educate members of the American Canyon community through public outreach to promote the CERT program. And whereas American Canyon CERT volunteers are trained to assist others in their community following a disaster when professional responders are not immediately available to help. And whereas the American Canyon CERT volunteers assisted with support for wildlife response, animal rescue, search and rescue operations, traffic control, and community outreach, while concurrently providing volunteers to COVID-19 testing, vaccination, and food assistance centers. And now therefore be proclaimed that I, Leon Garcia, Chair of the American Canyon Fire Protection District, do hereby proclaim the week of September 19 to 23rd, 2022 as Community Emergency Response Week, and ask the community to join us in honoring the men and women whose dedication to American Canyon helps support citizens of this community. With great pleasure.
Mayor, just really quickly, Powell's making the rounds. Yeah. But as a fire chief of the American Canyon Fire Protection District, CERT is an integral part of the fire district. They do, as you said in the proclamation, a wealth of services for the community here. And I think what's really special about CERT is it is composed of a group of individuals that live within the community that have a strong desire to help their community in times of need. In addition to emergency incidents or times of need, they're also very active in supporting many of the functions of in the city for large events like Meet Me in the Streets, Juneteenth, the football games, and so forth, working also with PD. Coincidentally, this is also the 5-year anniversary of CERT. CERT is a relatively new organization within American Canyon, so I'm personally very glad to have them. And with that, I'd like to introduce Director Powell Helms. He has a few words he'd like to say, and many of the other CERT members are here tonight, and the proclamation said it very eloquently, but thank you for all you do for the community of American Canyon. Powell.
Oh. Good evening, Mayor and City Council, City Manager, Chief Bellier, Chief Greenberg, and the citizens of American Canyon. Like they introduced me, my name is Powell Helms. I'm the current director of American Canyon CERT. I'm also a lifelong resident of American Canyon. I want to thank you for this proclamation and the opportunity to speak tonight. I will keep this as brief as possible. I have a few people I would like to thank and recognize. First and foremost, I want to thank God for giving us the ability to do what we do. Without this next person, we wouldn't even be here today. Retired Chief Glenn Weeks believed in ACERT and made it happen. So a special thank you to him. Chief Mike Cahill for continuing the support of the fire department, and now Chief Bellier for continuing to support us with anything that we possibly need. The administrative staff, Martha and Laura, for all they do, and then the men and women of the fire department, itself for all the support they give us. I'd also like to thank Sheriff Oscar Ortiz, who was the chief of American Canyon for quite a while. Sergeant Jeff Madlock, Sergeant Eric Olson, and Sergeant Natalie Hurtado for being our liaisons and mentoring us and teaching us and guiding us with and trusting us. So as the chief mentioned, we celebrate our 5-year anniversary. This July was 5 years. And I could put it into words. Let me see here, I'm getting off track here. Our first board meeting was July 20th of 2017. Our first activation of many activations was October 9th of 2017. So we call that baptism by fire.
Yes, it was.
For those that don't know, the Atlas LNU fire was our baptism. We spent 7 days deployed, 650 volunteer hours running shelters and radio communications for the shelters. June 18th of 2018 was our very first general meeting of membership. We had 11 members sworn in that day as disaster service workers. Our current membership is now 26. So we are a little team, but we're a mighty team. And I would like to give a special thanks to all the men and women here in green who faithfully come out and take care of our community, whether it be a disaster or in just a city event. Some of the highlights of the 5 years: we've been deployed 60 times, 3 major fires, 3 local fires, shelter operations, PSPS events, COVID-19, water distribution for Lake Berryessa, food distributions, traffic incidents, and search and rescue. We've done over 100+ community events, some of them like Snow Day, 4th of July, and other events. And what I'm most proud of is we have over 4,000 hours of training for our members. In closing, I would just to speak, the members of ACERT, without you, none of this is possible. And I thank you every day for what you do. And when asked, you never say no. So I appreciate that. And for the community, just know that whether it be an event or a disaster, American Canyon CERT will be here for us. Thank you.
Well, you need to get somebody to take a photo because you're so
Janice.
person.
I got this covered.
Was it up front? All right. Well, always great to recognize the good things that happen in American Canyon.
Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind, before the CERT team leaves, can I have a couple of comments here really
Certainly.
quick? So Pal and Mary, you brought up something tonight that is a memory. The first time I met you was putting up that CERT operations team at American Canyon High School. And they were tired. And I would come in every few hours. I was like, did you go home and sleep? He's like, no, I haven't. And they were super dedicated. And it's really special to me to have met you during a time of crisis and to have your dedication continue 5 years later and watch that team grow. So I can't thank both of you enough for just your service to the community and your friendship. So thank you very much. I really enjoyed that. Yeah.
I think the, certainly much valued in dedication, to your dedication to the community. I do recall that managing the shelter was an exhausting thing, as David points out. But it's just, I think we did a debriefing every evening and got better every day. And that was, I think that's the model we've used ever since, is we debrief every event we do to find out what works, what can we do better next time. So it's a great strategy. Thank you.
Thank you. You can go now.
Okay, moving on to our agenda. Public comments on items not on the agenda. Have we received any? Public comments on items not on the agenda. Have we received any?
Yes, we have. We have not received written public comments for items not on the agenda, but I do have in the audience, Russell Charpentier would like to make a comment.
Good evening, welcome.
Good evening again, council members and women up there. I'm Russ Charpentier. I am one of the co-sponsors of the complaint filed against the city of Vallejo regarding the Broadway Home Key project, basically requiring them to adhere to the CEQA requirements, or their violation thereof. And one of the biggest problems I have is basically most people in American Canyon don't know anything about this project. City did a great job of providing a letter back in June 7th, the first meeting where we had just a few days notice of this project, and they outlined bullet point wise all the deficiencies in Vallejo's approach to this regarding American Canyon and proper notification of us. So I've been organizing individuals, residents and business owners in American Canyon and Vallejo, and there are quite a few. And we hired an attorney, got up the money to do that, and moved forward with legal action. So we're at this point moving forward with that. But one of our, my co-sponsor of this sent out more notifications to you guys and to Vallejo today regarding one of the parking issues. They've reduced from 14 parking spaces down to 4, 2 of which are for caseworkers. One is going to be a handicap, and one, I guess, is for one parking space for 48 units that can house up to twice that many number of residents right there on Broadway. So this butts our property line on the park. I don't know where the clock is here, but oh, there it is. Basically, my biggest problem has been trying to make public aware of this. And when we have an opportunity to sit and talk about this and discuss it, I find there's a tremendous amount of interest. We've got a couple hundred signatures just in a couple of days over at the park, and people are astounded by what is actually being proposed there and what the deficiencies of this project are. And we've offered alternate sites for this. It's not like we're saying, no, not in our backyard, but here's a much better opportunity, half the cost, twice the size, and much better location overall. So that's all I want to say tonight is we need the city council's help in backing us up on this. We're the citizens of American Canyon, and we need your help on this issue. So, and to just bring public awareness to it. I guess my time's up.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you, and thank you.
Any other speakers on this item not on the agenda?
Looks like
Hi, thank you. Karina Sorrenti, Montevino. And I echo everything that Russell just said. And I want to add that I have called a few times that because of this, it's been so broadcasted around the community in Vallejo. I see a lot more foot traffic or sleeping traffic, if you want to call it, around the park, the Veterans Park in the Montevino area. I've called a couple times because there's a person that has taken residence next to the porta potty at Veterans Park by the playground, not the one by the bocce court. And it just worries me, like I said on the proclamation, I have my son is growing up, and he went to a friend's house, and then when he was coming back, there was a suspicious guy hiding on the bushes. So, you can't even let your own kid go around the block because, we're already worried about his safety. So I urge you, council, mayor, director, and our city attorney, to make an effort. Try to send some letters of support towards this cause, because it's just not a good place. It's gonna ruin our park. It's the biggest park that you have here in the city, and it just worries me. Just safety for our kids. I work at the middle school, so I'm always looking out for safety for our children, and so think about that. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers on items not on the agenda?
I have some hands raised on Zoom.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to call Duraya Syed. Go ahead, Duraya.
Thank you so much. My name, can you hear me?
If you could boost the volume just a little more or stand closer to the mic, please, that would help.
Can you hear me now?
It's a little better, yes. Thank you. Welcome.
So my name is Duraya Syed, and I work as an outreach analyst for the California Department of Insurance. And just wanted to come and first of all introduce myself. I'm your outreach analyst. If you need anything from the Department of Insurance, and it is a wildfire season, so I want to touch bases on the Safer from Wildfires program, which is a safer and interagency partnership between Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara and the Emergency Response and Readiness Agencies in Governor Newsom's administration. And it is purposed to protect lives, homes, and businesses by reducing wildfire risk. We are working with Cal OES, the Governor's Office of Planning and Research, and California Public Utilities Commission. So basically, Commissioner Lara is using all the tools available to improve insurance for our communities. It's a ground-up approach for wildfire resilience, and it has 3 layers. The first one, we call it like SFW, Safer from Wildfire 1, 2, 3 plan. Number 1 is to protect the structure, such as making sure your roof and vents are up to code. Number 2 is the immediate surrounding. There is a brush too close to your home, or are there flammable items stored under your deck? And finally, number 3, the community, so that we can involve the entire community to prevent wildfires from catching and spreading to other homes and businesses in the neighborhood. And this kind of includes enhancing the infrastructure and programs like Firewise program. So actually, it was this that I want to bring this, and Commissioner Laura is working on the regulations, and we hope that this program will get the final approval by January 2023. But my basic idea to come here is to remind you that we are here to help you with any of your insurance questions, you or your constituents. And please feel free to go on our website at insurance.ca.gov or call our hotline number at 800-927-4357. And we have a dedicated staff that can answer your specific question. And also, if people have complained for auto insurance, homeowners insurance, and any claims, we will walk through them step by step. And our callback time is just 2 minutes, and we are very proud of it. So I just wanted to come here and introduce myself. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the information. It's very timely to this time of year.
Thank you.
Any other speakers?
I have no other hands raised.
Okay, very good.
Oh.
Couple people want to speak? Item not on the agenda.
Fran Lemus. Going on with that gentleman, I know when we have a project, we have to have so many parking spots for so much space. How can they have for 48 units, one parking spot? I just don't understand. Maybe the city of Vallejo is different, but I think that's a good thing to really find out about, because that doesn't work. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience? Seeing none, hearing none, we'll move on with our agenda then. We have the consent calendar.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to have a question before we do the consent calendar, the agenda changes, which is kind of related to the consent calendar.
Oh, yeah, it's the bottom of the page here. Agenda changes. Is there any changes on the agenda?
Yeah, so in my packet, which is on Granicus, the online version of this, item number 9 in my book is a property exchange with Napa Valley Unified School District.
Yes.
The staff report says it's a business item. I just want to make sure that it's consent or a business item, or maybe it's wrong here and right elsewhere.
Which is it then?
It's a consent item, Mayor, where there's inadvertently included the word business on the staff report, but the agenda itself at the beginning is correct.
Okay, great. If that's the case, Mr. Mayor, if you want to move on to the consent calendar.
Well, yeah, if anybody wants to, anything from the calendar to discuss, seeing none?
I'll make a motion to adopt the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Motion second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Joseph,
Yes.
Councilmember Oro,
Yes.
Councilmember Washington,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Abadamos,
Yes.
Mayor Garcia.
Yes. Thank you, Council. Moving on to our agenda item number 12, public hearings. Amendment of the 2015 Urban Water Management Plan, UWMP, and adoption of the 2020 Urban Water Management Plan, UWMP.
Jen's laughing at me. Got to raise the podium. Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Staff and members of the public. Felix Hernandez, Maintenance and Utilities Director. Yes, tonight we have the amendment to the 2015 Urban Water Management Plan, Appendix G, demonstration of reduced delta reliance, and subsequent to that, we will have the 2020 Urban Water Management Plan. So the Urban Water Management Plan Act dates back to 1983. And that law requires that urban water suppliers that serve more than 3,000 people or 3,000 acre feet annually develop an urban water management plan every 5 years. The plan supports the supplier's long-term resource planning and to ensure that we have adequate supplies to meet current and future growth. Along the same cycle, every 5 years, the state also issues guidance for changes that may be coming for that cycle. The 2020 Urban Water Management Plan requirements are expected to cover greater scope and increase the level of detail compared to previous urban water management plans. And tonight I have with me Brianna Barton and Nicola Fontaine from Corolla Engineers to present to the council those changes and the process for the urban water management plan. So I'm going to turn over to Brianna.
Thank you, Felix.
Let me load that for you.
Okay.
Sorry, I probably should have did that. We want, okay, you're ready to go. There's the clicker.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Felix. Oh, it's okay. I'm pretty tall. Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council members, and community. I'm Brianna Barton, Senior Engineer with Corolla Engineers, and as Felix said, I'll be making a presentation on the 2020 Urban Water Management Plan, or UWMP, as well as the demonstration of reduced delta reliance appendix. Where do I point this? Where do I point this?
I think you could probably just use the
Just use the mouse. Okay, there we go. Thanks. Okay. For the presentation, I'll start by describing the UWMP purpose and objectives and new requirements for the 2020 UWMP. I'll review the city's outreach process and activities and go over some results, including the population and demand projections and supply reliability assessment. I'll also describe the city's water shortage contingency plan, which is included in the city municipal code, and the demonstration of reduced delta reliance appendix. As Felix introed, the city is required to file an urban water management plan with the state every 5 years. And agencies that supply or service more than 3,000 connections or supply more than 3,000 acre feet of water annually are required to do so. And the city fulfills that requirement as they serve a total of 5,341 connections. And the purpose of the Urban Water Management Plan is to maintain efficient use of urban water supplies, promote conservation programs and policies, confirm that water supplies are available for future beneficial use, and provide a mechanism for response during water drought conditions. Oops. Just click through there. The UWMP process includes reviewing historic and projected demands and supplies with an assessment of supply reliability under various hydraulic conditions, including average single dry year and multi-dry year scenarios. This also includes a water supply reliability assessment for the upcoming 5-year period or a drought risk assessment. Overall, the state law dictates the contents and format of the Urban Water Management Plan, and once the report is compiled, it goes through a public review and adoption process, and when completed, it's submitted to the Department of Water Resources, and throughout the process, outreach is performed. Click through that. Okay. Since the development of the 2015 Urban Water Management Plan, new legislation has triggered changes. The changes were a result of the prolonged statewide drought between 2012 to 2016. As part of the 2016 executive order, new framework was developed to use water more wisely and strengthen local drought resilience. New legislation was developed in 2018, which resulted in additional reporting requirements for the 2020 Urban Water Management Plan cycle. The key new requirements for the 2020 Urban Water Management Plan include additional monitoring and reporting, climate change considerations, seismic risk assessment, 5 consecutive dry year water reliability assessment, drought risk assessment, water shortage contingency plan updates, lay description or an executive summary, and an energy intensity analysis. And the groundwater supply coordination is not applicable to the city. So every urban water supplier required to prepare a urban water management plan is required to notify at least 60-day in advance any city or county that they provide water supplies to. So the city provided a 60-day notice to the listed agencies that the UWMP process was ongoing, and a notice was also provided for the current public hearing and tentative adoption to these agencies and in the Vallejo Times-Herald. So the city's potable water service area is approximately 30 square miles as shown in the figure. And the city water supply is purchased or imported water sources, mainly state water project, water purchased from the Napa County Flood Control and Water Conservation District and the city of Vallejo. And the city owns, maintains, and operates a water treatment plant. Water demands served by the city are primarily residential, commercial, industrial, and institutional, and landscape irrigation. And the city also delivers recycled water to meet demand on an as-needed basis for agricultural and landscape irrigation and dust control at construction projects. So here you can see the 2020 estimated population of the city and the projected population out to 2045. So 19,524 in 2020, out to 30,000 in 2045. And the population was projected based on new developments, which are expected to contribute to housing growth in the city. And then the 2020 potable, raw, and recycled water demand was 2,821 in 2020 and projected out to 5,000. This is in units of acre feet in 2045. Okay. The city water use target for 2020, based on the water use baseline and targets calculated in 2015, was 162 gallons per capita per day. And the city achieved that target with an actual 2020 gallons per capita per day of 116. And although the city was able to meet the 2020 target, the year 2020 did not represent a typical year due to the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. However, since the 2020 per capita demand goal was met, adjustments for extraordinary events were not made. So in summary, the city achieved the 2020 water use target, city conservation efforts were successful, and the public acted on conservation measures. So next steps to maintain water conservation goals include track warnings and violations and work with the public to maintain efficient use of supplies. A supply and demand assessment considered the city's water supply reliability during 3 water scenarios: average year or normal year, single dry year, and 5 consecutive year drought, in addition to a drought risk assessment from 2021 through 2025. As you can see, in an average water year, the supply is greater than the demand, and in single dry year, multi-dry years, and drought risk assessment, the supply is less than the demand. However, the city anticipates it can supply all of its water demands by purchasing supplemental imported water through existing agreements through the planning horizon of 2045 for all water year scenarios. The Urban Water Management Plan also describes how the city has implemented demand management measures or best management practices that promote and encourage water conservation. The city has a water waste prevention ordinance in place at all times in the city municipal code. All of the city customers are metered and billed on a monthly basis. The city has an increasing tier water rate schedule for single-family residential use. These metered water rates consist of a fixed meter charge as well as a rate per unit based on usage. And the city has a public education and outreach program in place. The city provides flyers, brochures, and information packets to customers, as well as bill inserts promoting water conservation and information on the city website. The city also prepares annual water audits to assess and manage distribution leaks. Additionally, when a complaint is lodged regarding a potential water leak, the city takes swift action to identify and repair the given leak as warranted. The city has a water conservation program in place, which is a coordinated effort amongst various city departments. The city offers rebates for high-efficiency toilets and for replacing grass with drip-irrigated, low-water use plants in permeable hardscape. And lastly, the city has implemented several administrative policies to promote water conservation. Urban Water Management Plan law requires a water shortage contingency plan with specific elements as listed here. The blue text indicates new requirements since the 2015 UWMP. And the city's water shortage contingency plan is included in the City Municipal Code Water Conservation Plan, Chapter 13.14. And the adopted water shortage contingency plan will be included as an appendix to the 2020 Urban Water Management Plan. The city's water shortage contingency plan details the stages of actions to be taken during a reduction in available water supply. As noted on the previous slide, 6 standard water shortage levels are now required, from shortage level 1 up to 10% shortage to shortage level 6, greater than 50% shortage. Reductions in supply are most frequently associated with drought, but could also be the result of flooding, fire, earthquakes, regional power outages, water contamination, and any other situation that could impact the city's water supply. Okay. So for the demonstration of reduced Delta reliance report, the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta Reform Act of 2009 requires local public agencies to submit a written certification as to whether covered actions are consistent with applicable policies. Covered actions include multi-year water transfer, conveyance facility, or new diversion that involves transferring water through or exporting water from or using water in the Delta. The city receives supply through the State Water Project by contract with Napa County Flood Control and Water Conservation District and through an agreement with Vallejo for Delta Water. The city is required to demonstrate consistency with Delta Plan Policy WRP1, and the inclusion of the demonstration of reduced Delta reliance report as an appendix in the 2015 and 2020 Urban Water Management Plans fulfills the requirements of WRP1. Oops, I'm sorry, I never advanced to that slide. Okay. The reduced Delta reliance analysis for demands and supplies show that the expected outcome for regional self-reliance is an increase in self-reliance in the near term and long term. And the increase in self-reliance is achieved through water use efficiency, increased recycled water use, and reduced distribution system loss. The results also show that the expected outcome for percent of water supplies from the Delta is a decrease in the near term and short term. And the results show that the city is measurably reducing reliance on the Delta and improving regional self-reliance. That's all I have for the presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
You have the slide that kind of projects how much we'll need going out. We have that one that goes out 2040 something, I think.
Yeah.
Just wondering at what point, I'd like to hear more on the Sites Reservoir opportunity for us, you know, where that would come into play in here on projected demand population.
Yeah. I don't think we really spoke to the Sites Reservoir project in the 2020 Urban Water Management Plan.
No, but if we're looking forward, given the numbers we have, when is a critical point we would arrive at where we need Sites Reservoir online?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the question is, when will we need Sites Reservoir online?
Yes.
Okay. I would have to refer back to the slides. Do you understand? Okay. We have to look back. I don't know offhand. But we can definitely come back and with that information.
Yeah,
we
we're
have
just
more
wondering,
readily
you know, just
available. Yeah, I
drought
understand
seems
the
to be
question.
more with us. A lot of effect on that, and water supplies seem to get more tangible, less tangible, I guess.
Yeah.
So I just think that might be something to be looking at forward in terms of, I know this is looking at how we did with our compliance, what the issues we're taking. But what does the supply side of it look like?
Currently, well, as we showed that there would be, the demand would exceed supply, but if we do factor in the site's reservoir, which we have not, that's 4,000 acre feet. I would venture to think that in the next 5 years, as that site's project moves forward, we will incorporate it into the next urban water management plan. We'll be that much further along, starting construction really soon, actually.
All right. I think the population's numbers here, when we look at the number of units being built in American Canyon, we might be a bit underestimating that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
As you know, there's everything going in Watson Ranch. There's Oat Hill. There's a number of the Cove, other proposed multifamily housing.
Yeah, the projected population, we did take into account the Watson Ranch project, which was approximately 1,253 housing units, and the Broadway District Priority Development Area, which was approximately 1,200 housing units.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think it's probably a more accurate number. I was just passing along a thought. A school district only looks out 5 years, and we know that there's going to be a lot more people than what we are projecting right now at 5 years. With that, Councilmember Joseph.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. The first question is this the presentation on amending the current 2015, or is it a combination amendment to the 2015 plan as well as the presentation on the 2020 plan?
Yeah, the presentation was mostly on the 2020 plan, and the last few slides on the reduced delta reliance. That appendix will be included in both the 2015 Urban Water Management Plan and the 2020 Urban Water Management Plan.
All right, and so getting to that delta reliance, this is a new concept, so maybe I just need some clarification. When it talks about increasing our reliance or our resiliency, does that mean we simply use less delta water?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're reducing the delta reliance would be using supplies other than from the delta.
So, okay, all right, which brings up a bigger issue that the delta, Parker Slough and all that stuff has always been kind of a challenge, almost an Achilles heel for us, because you know, we get almost all of our water through that channel in one form or another. And so I appreciate wanting to reduce that reliance, but it's kind of like our primary artery. So we seem to have met our requirements for now, but longer term, you know, what options do we have? Because you'd either have to have your own reservoir here on this side of it, which is an option. Even when sites comes online, if I understand it correctly, it will also be going through the delta. So I guess the only comment is that seems to be something to be concerned about in terms of our long-term water stability and security. Mm-hmm. But it's a new thing, and I probably haven't thought it all the way through, but it strikes me as something to be worried about. And maybe we'll leave it with that. The other one, in looking, and I don't know what page it's on, but in looking at the different supplies, I would agree with the mayor that at some point we should begin looking at the site's reservoir. Admittedly, it may not be online until 2030 or 2035, but it is a key element of our water supply. But more immediately, I noticed that we're only showing, I think, 628 acre feet of Vallejo treated water. And I believe we've purchased, I mean, all, you know, legal actions notwithstanding, I thought we had purchased something like almost 2,000 acre feet. And so I'm wondering, why not show it as the maximum versus a smaller amount?
Yeah, it's a fair question, Councilmember Joseph. A couple of things to keep in mind with what we're trying to do with this report is to paint a scenario that is conservative. So the 620 acre feet is the maximum we've ever purchased in a year. It's not the legally contracted amount. And so, yes, we can purchase up to 2,000, and I believe it's 45 acre feet annually. And we may need to if this drought continues, but we haven't yet. And so we don't want to rely on that necessarily for our planning documents, which is in the same vein in the response on sites. We're hopeful construction begins in late 24, early 25, and I suspect for the next iteration of our urban water management plan, after construction has commenced, we'll be a little more comfortable knowing when we can start to rely on those supplies. And the point is well taken. Sites is a very important piece of our water future, but we're wanting to create a document that doesn't rely on sites to be all the answers for everything. And so that was kind of the theme with what we were doing.
Well, being conservative is a good thing, so no problem there. A couple of other issues, in general, having been around since the original 2005 urban water management plan, I'm very pleased to see our projections constantly going down. That at one point we were envisioning 6,800 acre feet of water demand in 2020, when in point of fact it was less than half that. So the really good news is the amount of water we're using has dramatically dropped, almost to the point of saying you could add a lot more population and still not be where we thought we'd be 15 years ago. And water losses in particular have gone dramatically down. So those are the good things. And just to be fair, the flip side is I keep noticing the projections for our recycled water. There's kind of a pattern. It's a low now, but it's going to be great in the next 5 years, and then it doesn't happen. And it's a concern because that's probably the easiest way that we can supplement our water supply and be resilient with the delta at the same time. So I think it behooves us to pay more attention to the capital project schedule, because I think according to the 2015 plan, we should have had another 300 acre feet of recycled water online, but we haven't constructed those projects. And I'm sure there's good reasons for that, but it kind of reinforces that idea that we really ought to be looking at this each year and comparing what we projected to what was actual, similar to what we do with the budget on dollars. That if we only look at this every 5 years and we think about it as a 20-year projection and it all looks good, that's one thing. But we're in the middle of a drought, and we need to do whatever we can to enhance our water supply. And recycled water is the easiest way to deliver on that. And so I would just encourage staff and my colleagues that we do need to pay attention to those recycled water projects and make sure they come online when they're supposed to. Because according to this, some of them were supposed to be done by 2019 or 2020, and had they been in place, things would have been a little easier today. So those are my main concerns. I think, like I said, overall, it's a good report. We're much better now than we were a few years ago, but there are opportunities for improvement, and I hope that we pursue them. Thank you.
Sure. No, I think the situation with the drought, climate change is the reality, and that's going to change our options. Councilmember Oro.
Thank you. So let's be frank. For a city without a dedicated water supply that we can't control, we're punching above our weight, and we're doing really good on our urban water management plan. There's a lot there. There's a lot, obviously, areas that we can improve on. I have a couple of comments, and that's really it. First, to Councilmember Joseph's comment on the Vallejo water, on 630 versus 2,000. The report does state that we have rights to 2,000, but we only use 634. And I think I'm agreeing with the city manager there that what we use actually shows that we are using less than we're allotted, right? And so there's water there, and I can see the reasoning for that, and it does state that we have the 2,000 available to us. I do have a concern, though. On page 24 of the report, the section 2.4.3, notice to cities, there was no mention of Vallejo, who happens to be an important water partner to us. I checked in with the city manager earlier, and he said that there was a letter sent to Vallejo twice, I think in March and then in July, about this, but it's not stated in the report. And, you know, the Solano County Water Agency is there. Is that an oversight? Did we leave them out of the report for a reason? And I say that because they're 2,000 acre feet of water. It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, they were notified. You can refer to section 2.4.1.
2.4.1.
Table 2-4, they were notified as a wholesale water supplier. Napa County Flood Control and Water Conservation District, City of Vallejo, and City of Napa were listed in that table.
What page is that?
The previous page.
Yeah.
2-3.
The wholesale, okay. And I didn't see that as wholesale and retail coordination, right? And so it was other cities. Thank you very much
You're welcome.
for clarifying that. I went over that page 3 times. I was like, where is it? So, the page before. And then, you know, listen, I heard the arguments about sites. You have 3 council members here right now talking about the site's oversight, if you will. And I know we want to be conservative of it, but there should be a nod in this report that this is part of our urban water management plan, a paragraph or 2 saying that, you know, as sites gets built, you know, the city of American Canyon will have rights to that 4,000 acre feet of water that we will use judicially because we will pair it with our zero water footprint and our recycled water program, et cetera. Councilmember Joseph brought up recycled water. I think we should make those investments. I'm a fan of it, actually, and I think the city leads that in the county. Mayor Garcia and I had an opportunity to tour candidates for the supervisor that's coming up in this fall here, and we showed them around town, and everybody wondered what those barrels were for, and we told them it was the recycled water program. And they were impressed by it. And so we're leading the way in that. We're leading the way in a lot of conversation things. And the fact that we could pair that with sites forward thinking, it helps the report. And it should be in there, even if it's not committed. And you don't have to say that you're going to rely on that, but just say that that is something that's going there. It is part of our, if it's not, it is part of our urban water management plan today. All right? And so that's it. To the mayor's point about is it enough? And I think when we asked the staff this in 2017, they were originally recommending 2,500 acre feet, but you know, at my suggestion, we moved it up to 4,000. And I recall specifically at build out being Watson Ranch, Broadway, and the Green Island industrial area, you know, where we are in terms of our overall city limits. 4,000 acre feet would do us good, and we probably have a little bit more. You combine that with Vallejo water rights, and you know, whatever the state water project gives us in bad years or in good years, we're securing our water future. That's all I have. Thank you.
A couple of comments I'd like to add to this conversation. Some reading I've done on the press reporting. Salinity increase in the Delta. Antioch's now having a problem with water quality because of the saltwater intrusion from the bay. So there's less water coming down from the mountains. Sea level rise, tides coming in. So that area may be in jeopardy to who knows how great an extent, Delta water supply. Also the climate change that's impacting us. Snowpack will be less in the Sierras. So all that rainwater that happens, when it happens, will come rushing down the hill, causing flooding. But it creates a situation where there's no reserve in the hills for water throughout the summer. You know, snow melts. That's the biggest reservoir in the state, the snowpack in the Sierras. So long term, given the impacts we've had environmentally with it, it behooves us to be very studious and cautious about that. I think, frankly, the site's reservoir is something that's going to really benefit the city in the long term. And I've already had conversation with other elected officials. How do I get into that? They want to know. I said, well, we heard about it early on, and we know our water system is not something we control by ourselves, as Councilmember Oro pointed out, but we need to participate creatively in how we manage it. I think the recycled water program has been rather outstanding work. I represent the flood control district on the North Bay Watershed Association. I think I reported out last meeting on it. Again, to this meeting, I'll report out this evening was more on water. But until we all have this recycled water program, and they go, wow, way to go, American Canyon. Yeah, that makes an impact. And there will be more happening with recycled water, part of a conversation to be had later. I mean, just to give you a heads up, part of the conversation this time with North Bay Watershed is the yuck factor in recycled water. Well, I worked in a laboratory testing water in college, and one of the attendees has a PhD in this whole area. Yeah, we both agree. All water is recycled. It is. It's something we just have to recognize. Anyway, good outcome. This is a public hearing, so public comment at this time. Public hearing is open.
We have no written comments received.
Okay.
I have no hands raised online.
All right.
Oh, I do. I have one now.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, before it's gone.
I'm going to call Liliana Koresh. Liliana, go ahead.
Hello everyone, my name is Liliana Koresh, and I'm currently a sophomore at Napa High School. I'm a new member of Napa Schools for Climate Action, and I decided to join in order to make my mark in helping the current climate crisis. I would like to start off by thanking American Canyon City Council for the action plan you have prepared to meet our goal, which is achieving net zero emissions by 2030. It is incredibly inspiring to see the council working together. Allison Bensick, the other newest member to Napa Schools for Climate Action, and I will be the new student leaders that propel this organization onwards. We are more than happy to help American Canyon going forward. As we all are aware, we are deep into a climate and ecological emergency that is growing exponentially yearly. The time for action must be now. We must act urgently and put forward a massive effort to stop the global warming that is continuing to raise our temperatures and threaten humanity and the natural world. We have less than 8 years to achieve the 2030 goal, so we can't wait any longer to have results. Again, on behalf of Napa Schools for Climate Action, we express deep appreciation to all that has been accomplished in American Canyon and for all that you're pledging to do to protect my generation and the future of life. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Good to hear from you.
I suspect that's a comment that may hear again when we go to the next item, but I appreciate that. And glad to hear that the Students for Change have got 2 new players. That's a good thing too.
Yes, indeed. It's the matter we'll be living with for all our lifetimes, Yeah. Okay, so public hearing is closed. We're coming back to City Council for, unless there's any other comment. City Clerk?
Nothing else?
All right. Anybody in the audience want to comment? No?
Council provided direction this evening on the sites project. Is there a way that we can get that in there as amended, or?
Yes, Councilmember Oro, I was just discussing that with the city attorney. This would come back for a second reading, and so in our estimation, we'd have the ability to fold in what we're going to characterize as an appendix to the 2020 Urban Water Management Plan, and this would be a standalone appendix that talks about the Sites Reservoir Project, our participation in it, noting that we're not relying on it in any sense of the tables and the charts that are in the document, but also highlights the fact that it's a significant project that we're a participant in. So linking those two there, but again, not substantive as far as the policy determinations in the plan itself for the action tonight. If that pleases the council.
If you bring it back as an appendix, I could move this motion.
Yeah. And the only thing I would like to add is the other concept, which is that we should come back annually and provide an update to the council on where things stand in terms of the forecast and actual. Because I think water in particular is becoming a little too important to wait every 5 years to kind of get an update. So
I think we all recognize how severe the situation is, and I think it's a good idea to have an update.
My only question on that is, don't we do that regularly on other staff reports and things of that nature?
We
Like-
certainly can provide frequent updates, as frequent as the council likes, and we do that as a part of the emergency declarations that we've been in, but we can tailor some of those reports to talk about recycled water actuals versus projected, and put a little different context on what we're reporting out. So that we certainly can do. We don't need to have that as a part of a motion or
no,
anything.
I would agree. It's more like, for the record, please remember to plug in there that we're going to meet at least annually and get an update. I
Put it in this
raised
record.
this 5 years ago and it didn't happen, so I'm a little more picky now. Thank you.
With that said, we're adopting 2 resolutions tonight,
Correct.
right? Yeah. With that said, I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 2022 next in order. A resolution of the City Council of the City of American Canyon adopting the city's amendment to the 2015 Urban Water Management Plan, demonstration of reduced Delta reliance.
I'll second it.
Motion second, roll call, please.
Councilmember Joseph,
Yes.
Councilmember Oro,
Yes.
Councilmember Washington,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Abadamos,
Yes.
and Mayor Garcia.
Yes, thank you, council.
I'll make a second motion to adopt resolution number 2022 next in order. A resolution of the City Council of the City of American Canyon adopting the city's 2020 Urban Water Management Plan.
I'll second that.
Motion second, roll call, please.
Councilmember Joseph,
Yes.
Councilmember Oro,
Yes.
Councilmember Washington,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Abadamos,
Yes.
Mayor Garcia.
Yes, thank you, council.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Move on now, our business item 13, Ad hoc Climate Action Committee Interim Report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a little bit of a unique item here today. Back in February, the City Council created the Climate Action Ad Hoc Committee, and among other things, had directed them to prepare the report, which shows up as attachment 1 to the staff report there, and was characterized as an interim report. And the purpose of tonight's item is to receive and file that report, and then to have a conversation about the contents of that report, to decide what, if any, of the ideas and actions that are proposed in there would be something the council wants to proceed with, and to really have a conversation about next steps. The unique part of this is I actually think the committee itself would be better respondents for any sorts of questions, although Community Development Director Brent Cooper did participate in some of the meetings and listen to some of the conversation. I think the committee itself is better poised to be able to answer any questions that the council has, rather than myself. But certainly I can chime in as far as any kind of next steps and what have you. And so with that, Mayor, probably just going to the interim report itself and saying what the council wants to, where the council wants to take this item.
So,
Who's presenting on it?
yeah.
What's that?
Anybody presenting on this? Or are we just opening up our discussion now?
I think we're just opening it up for discussion, Mayor.
Okay.
So just a point of procedure here.
Yeah,
so-
if I can butt in for a second to do a couple of things at least. Introduce 3 of the members of the ad hoc committee, Linda Brown, Chris Benz, and Gopal Shakar, as well as you just heard apparently are one of our replacements for Emily and Elisa. Looks like Elisa's younger sister, Liliana. So we do have our Students for Change being represented, which is kind of an exciting thing because I was really kind of concerned that that part of the equation fell out. But the main point being that we do have some of the individuals here that can speak to it.
Welcome, good to have you here this evening.
So on this, I don't know if they have a presentation per se, but it is a receive and file.
Right.
And a discussion that we're going to have, correct?
Yeah, maybe I could have phrased it a little bit better. Back on February 1st, the council adopted emergency proclamation as it relates to climate change. And among the many actions the council took that night was to form this committee and to get a report on the issues that are identified on the first page of the staff report. And so that has happened. The committee has met, they have discussed those issues, and they've now presented them to the city council. So, yeah, I would expect the council would want to look at the report of their particular areas that are questions, are there particular next steps that are desired. We did the first task with the emergency proclamation. The committee met and did their work. Until there's further direction from the council to do anything, the report is received and file, and that's that.
And this is the same report you submitted in your council member reports
About a month ago, yeah.
You didn't tweak anything, did you, on that?
Nope.
Okay, good, because I read that one
All right.
extensively, and if you changed anything, let me know.
The reason we did that, only just not to cut you off, Councilmember Ora, was that the council had asked the committee to submit its report by August 1st, and the committee did that. We knew we weren't going to get in front of the council in a formal setting because of the National Night and other things until tonight. We didn't want the council to feel like they were late in getting the report, so Councilmember Joseph included that as one of his.
I guess before we deliberate, maybe if we could have probably just a quick overview. It's a 13-page report. It's pretty extensive.
Well,
if you
yeah,
could have
it's
a
a lot
quick
of data in it,
overview
so-
and maybe hear from the people on the Climate Action Committee too. That's
Well,
what
we
I
have
would
our
suggest.
two
Yeah.
appointees as well, so.
Right.
Councilmember Washington, your light's lit. You want to
Yeah,
take a
thank
stab
you.
at it?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to have some clarifying things. I know a lot of people haven't had the opportunity to read this entire report, but I also want to kind of give the city manager the opportunity to address some things that was outlined on the report that he's actually doing as a result of climate action. But I don't want to just come up with a list of to-do things without an opportunity to show, hey, how do we provide a budget, or how do we sit with him to say what is the public opinion? Maybe polling some of our residents. I think we have a great outline that the committee had put together, but now I would be more interested in finding out what some of the priorities our residents are thinking about when it comes to what we're outlining, because in the essence, we're more of the SME, the subject matter experts on climate action. And now we need to deliver that information to the community so they can understand what we're talking about, because we're asking the community to make a change in their lifestyle. And we're actually needing to give the city manager an opportunity to understand what our goals are from the action items that we're delivering to you. So I think in fairness, I believe the city manager has done several items that we've suggested, but we haven't really given him the credit for those items. So it's easy to come up with a list of things to do, but I just want to give him an opportunity to address some of the things that he's already done as well. So I think the latter part of the committee, I was probably absent. I wasn't partaking in a lot of those meetings, so I apologize for that. But again, I think we're on the right path in American Canyon. And I like the ideals that we've come up with, but the action verbs that we've used a lot were eliminate, ban, increase, and replace. But we didn't really address on here what we are doing, so to give benefit to the city manager and how he's been managing.
If I can comment, number one, I think this was a list of things we need to do to address the net zero pledge that we made. It doesn't discount that we're doing a lot of things, but what it's really addressing is the fact that we've got to do a whole lot more and that we don't have a lot of time. Frankly, I'm a little concerned that we didn't have as much engagement on the part of staff throughout this process. I was hoping for more engagement. It didn't happen, and I think fortunately we had enough subject matter experts in the committee to put together a list of reasonable objectives and projects. And there's a lot of them, and if you've all had a chance to review the report, we can comment. From my perspective, I think the intent right now was that there's a couple of things going on. There's the greenhouse gas inventory that the county is doing, and that should be done sometime this fall. It was supposed to be summer, but now it's fall. We're also discussing the possibility of a countywide climate action plan. Those two things are very significant in terms of impacting what we do. Once the inventory is known, we'll have a better baseline to compare what we need to do next and how far we have to go. And obviously, if there's a countywide climate action plan, our role can obviously, defer to the countywide effort, and our level of intensity kind of drops dramatically. So given those two unknowns or two pendings, we put together the interim report to at least identify things that we could be looking at. And based on feedback from the council and the public, we would go back and refine them, putting in, what might it cost, where would you get the money, how would you implement it, who are your stakeholders, what's the time frame, and so forth, so that you really do come back with an action plan. Right now you have, like you said, it's a to-do list. And the intent was, once we get feedback, we would then shift to putting more meat on the bones, so to speak. But
just to add to that, I was just saying, what my point was basically just, we have to give them direction. We have to give the city manager some direction. We have to at least come up with I know we mentioned the dashboard, and you and I are both on the same, we're in alignment when it comes to having dashboards. But again, with dashboards, you gotta have priorities. And with priorities, you gotta look at the other things they're looking at. Everything's not about one particular topic that we're dealing with. And I know he's waiting for some type of direction. So that's where I'm saying that this is like brainstorming information. With what we want to do, what we need to do, and how we need to achieve a goal. I'm not certain if some of the other folks from the committee want to kind of like share some of their thoughts at some point. But I just kind of want to, in all fairness to the city and to the city manager, I just like to be able to say, look, these are the priorities. And if we set these priorities for him, or for the staff, for him to have clarity on what we're trying to ask for. Because when I read this, it's good. It's good information. It's great information. However, there are other priorities that we are not considering that we're trying to ask the city manager to do. And if we're saying that we are still using our terms, our key performance indicators, that's something, again, that you and I are in alignment with. But what are we holding the city manager accountable for? How are we prioritizing what is important here and adjacent to the other things that we're saying that are also important?
Well, I think this is an interim report, so the answer is we haven't defined it yet. Secondly, I think some of these projects are not intended to be put in the manager's lap. For example, there's discussion about trying to create a bigger volunteer group that could do a lot of the heavy lifting, and there will be a lot of things that need to be done. So I guess my point would be, it's premature to say what are our priorities relative to everything else. This is the priority within its own self. In terms of climate action, these are a list of some 32 projects that we can consider. And we're looking for feedback from the council to say which ones should we focus on, or maybe which ones shouldn't we focus on, or tweak them, so on. With that direction, we would go back and start putting more meat on the bones.
When you go through and start breaking out projects on it, what resources do we have?
Sure.
What do we need? Okay. What level of impact will this have? Where is the major areas with it? For me, I really focus on 5 and 6 under transportation. See, the largest source of greenhouse gas is the vehicles driving through town.
Right.
So how do we reduce vehicle miles traveled? Well, we get more people into carpooling, into transit. You and I both serve on NVTA board. And transit has always had its challenge being able to be economically effective, to be able to getting people from where they live to where they work. And there's that first mile, last mile issue always. So I think to me, that would be a large project. I have no doubt about it, but that could have the biggest impact, in my view, in terms of greenhouse gas.
And I guess to clarify my question or my statement is more that I just think that the assumptions, when you read this, if you're not part of what we went through, the assumptions are that we're not doing the majority of these things. That's what I want to address, is the assumptions that we may be providing to our residents. Because I believe we are doing a lot of things. I
Give
mean,
me
we
an
just finished-
example, because I'm a little confused. I don't think there's any assumptions that we aren't doing something as much, so I guess I need an example of where it is that we're being critical, I guess.
I guess the first thing that come to my mind would be, I guess I've spoken to Jason, the city manager, about, say, our solar projects and policies and things of that nature. And that was brought up early on in our committee. And I thought that we are doing a very good job as a city when it comes to solar and the awareness and the education piece. But I was under the impression that everyone else was thinking that we didn't have anything in the works for like the solar projects. There are things that we have in the works now for bicycles and things like that. But so the assumption, if you're talking to someone who has no idea about climate action, is that we're not doing any of these things. And I think, to the credit of our city and our staff, I think we are doing some things. And I think that these are just increase, I mean, some of the key words I look at is like eliminate, ban, increase, and replace, and then when we start talking about priorities, are we talking about, what do we want to give the direction? What kind of direction do we want to give to our city manager? Are we more focused on traffic, water, gas-powered equipment? I mean, we got to give them something. We got to give them something to say, what do we as a committee want to bring to you and realistically think that you could achieve? And then maybe, for instance, I mean, there's no polling of what are the residents saying. We have a few people that are in our committee, but we don't have the input from what our residents are saying based on all this information. Maybe get this information, push it out to our residents and say, hey, look, what do you think is the most priority that we should be addressing? As a council, I get it when we sit and meet with people and stuff like that and discuss with them what we're trying to address. Besides you and I can't speak for the mayor or David or Councilman Oral, but what is it that we should be doing as a council with the residents to kind of bring them up to speed on what's going on?
I see Vice Mayor Albert almost has her hand raised.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I totally get what Councilmember Washington is saying. At least I think I do, so forgive me if I'm putting words in your mouth. I'm looking at this list, and to give direction on this many items tonight is going to take a very long time. So I think we'll be here until at least midnight. So I'm trying to understand what a receive and file is going to necessitate. So if we do a receive and file action tonight, what does that mean? Are we binding ourselves to these things? Because some things on here, like Councilmember Washington mentioned, we're already working on the reduced vehicle mile section. There's a lot of things on here. For instance, we're working on increasing biking and walking to schools by having created our pedestrian and bike plan, and now we're in the process of implementing it. But there's other things on here that are going to be much larger policy discussions, like, for instance, anything that requires developers to do something extra. I don't think we can just tonight blanket say, yep, approve all of these items and we're, becoming more climate friendly. I agree with Councilmember Washington that we are doing a lot. I just don't really understand what kind of direction you're looking for tonight. Are you looking for a direction on each of these 32 action items? That's kind of dumping a lot of stuff into Jason's plate. But some of it we're already doing, and some of it I think is going to need to come back as a bigger policy discussion for the council to have. So what does receive and file mean for tonight?
Sure, I can take that question, Mayor. It's meant to be procedural in nature, meaning we'll formally have received the document, file it in our system so that it can be a public record and others can access it. It engenders the conversation that we're having this evening. And so that's what meant. Oftentimes, receive and file will be a consent item. Sometimes there are business items where you talk about them. We don't need a formal resolution or anything formal to adopt it. It's just receiving, what the committee had come up with. So that's what receive and file means. As far as the second part of your question, we didn't come to this with any kind of presupposed notions about what we would need from the council as far as to any one of these items. It is a brainstorming session. I think that was a well put sort of description. And it doesn't mean that there needs to be any action on any of these particular items. So it was meant to be a brainstorming one, and we wanted to, again, honor the work the committee did, bring this item forward, and wait to have further direction from the council on what of any of these items. Or do you want to hear, another way of presenting this? Is there a way that we want to communicate this to the community? Is there a follow-up with the community that we want to have? I do think there's, a wide gamut of how this could play out, and certainly open to any of those. We didn't want to come to this one with any perceived notions.
And just to add to that, what I don't want to have happen, and it's more in line to you, Jason, is that a year from now, 2 years from now, we're talking to you, and we come in and we ask you, what did you do with those 35 suggestions that we gave you? Okay, and now we're going to grade your performance on 35 things that we clearly know we gave you to file, and actions weren't done. So again, I look at it from that standpoint. Is that what is the ask? What is the ask that we want to try to accomplish right now to make sure that, you know what, Jason, 4 or 5 years from now, we could hold this against you. We could say, you know what, according to me, I like key performance indicators, and I remember we gave you 35 items, and I can't find one of these things that I could justifiably say that you completed. So again, from a interpretation standpoint, I just want to make sure that we give you every opportunity to be successful, okay? And I think this, if I was given 35 things without directions, I'd have some reason to be concerned, and I think you should too. But it's just the way I deal. I'm wired. So
okay, let me be blunt. This isn't direction to Jason. This is 32 projects that we've identified that we want feedback. Hold on, that we want feedback from. Then the committee was intending on going back and fleshing it out and saying, here's what this is going to cost, here's how it's going to get done, here's the stakeholders, and so on and so forth. This document isn't going to be thrown in the city manager's face saying, hey, you didn't do anything about it, because right now you couldn't. I mean, the first project is implement the 2019 pedestrian bike plan. That's kind of clear. But increase use of electric bikes. Right now, that's just a concept. There's no budget. There's no, where are you going to get them? How are you going to use incentives and so on? All of that is what the committee needs to do post this meeting. So it isn't intended to be something that Jason is stuck implementing. It's intended to give you a chance to provide some feedback to the committee, and then the committee will continue to work and put more details and come back with a final package that would theoretically say, here's a project, here's what we think it'll cost, where the funding could come from, how you will make it happen. That's the basics of project development and implementation. So I'm a little concerned that I'm hearing so much feedback suggesting that we're critical of the city's efforts, or we're not acknowledging what the city is doing, and so on and so forth. This was kind of a courtesy check-in to say, here's where the committee is going, and we don't want to stray off down some lane. I mean, if the council's not comfortable with some of these things, let us know. Some of them might just be, let's explore it and see what you want to do, or come back with more detail. Some things are feasibility related. So I guess I'm a little confused that there's so much negative energy, for lack of a better term, over something that is really compelling. And I think we just need to remember what the focus of this is. This is a check-in. What do you guys think? And we'll go back and continue working.
Well, first, Councilman Joseph, it's not negative energy that I have here. What I'm having is, I'm looking for how I deal with things, how I'm wired. And what I'm looking for is that I really want our city manager to be successful. But it just seems as if we're setting them up for failure, from my perspective. Now, I'm not trying to have...
Okay, I don't understand that. Can you explain how it would set him up for a list of projects that don't have any detail other than a description, and that we're asking to go back and provide some implementation, some meat to that bone? That doesn't set him up.
Okay, well, the way I look at it, Councilman Joseph, is that I look at it as we're not giving him direction. We're not giving him direction to be successful. You know, we're giving him a bunch of things, but we're not even saying what he is doing and what he has completed or what things he has done. Okay, and I don't want to go on and on. I mean, I think the mayor, I think Councilman Oral has things that they want to say, and I don't want to make anybody else feel as though I got negative energy, because that's the last thing that I try to do is negative. I just wanted to open it up to be successful for our city manager, and I don't want to use something later to try to oust him based because you didn't do these items. Because I think that our city manager and I think our city staff are doing a good job. I think that we have a lot of positive things going on. So if anything, I think I'm being more positive than negative. But if your perception is that I'm being negative, I apologize. And I apologize to anyone out there that feels the same way.
Well, I think, I see this more as a wish list, a shopping list, things to be done. If we pick one, then we go at it with full bore. I'll take Councilmember Oral, then Vice Mayor Adames.
It's a good thing I'm sitting in the middle because I'm hearing both sides.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't think there's negative energy. I can sense the frustration. I understand that. Here's where I see this happening. First of all, with all due respect to Councilmember Washington's point of view, you know, reading the report actually felt declarative. And I could see why, because it's written in from the point of a climate emergency standpoint and a passionate group of people who actually want to make a difference for climate change. In here, there are very easy and actionable things that we can do now or that we are doing now. I think the frustration here is it's not acknowledged in that report, in this report, and that's why I use the word declarative, saying that, and he chose those words. It just wasn't there. And we have, just like on the Sites Water Project here in the Urban Management Report, we're doing good things, but we're not saying it. Exactly. We're doing good things here, but we're not saying it. And we need to say it, and we need to acknowledge it. We're the first city in Napa County to ban gas stations. It was a step that we took. We have required all new new housing to have solar here. In the report, and I'll give you an example, the Vine Trail supporting that. We've got it going on Devlin. We're building it on Watson Ranch right now. We've got to figure out how to get over here across the highway, but we are totally supportive of that, and we've got the Vine Trail going right through town. There wasn't really mentions of that, and I think that's where a little bit of the frustration came. But, you know, I agree with much of this, and actually on the transportation side, I'm like, let's do 1, 2, 3, 4 right away, which is about bicycle and transportation and alternative things. The 2019 pedestrian bike plan frustrates me in the fact that I don't know how much of it we're doing, or we could actually be more aggressive about it. We've done a little bit here and there through road and improvements, but the road improvements were for the road and vehicle traffic, and bicycle safety came second. I would love to see this city turn itself around and be a bike-first community. We're 5 square miles, all of us live within 2 square miles of something. The furthest point south on the southeast corner to Napa Junction School here is only 3 miles. And unless you live where Mark lives, it's all flat. There's 2 hills in town that, you know, you could suffer making your way up, but everything else is flat. We ought to be biking. And you guys know that if it wasn't 110 degrees today, I'd ride my bike to this place like I have in the past. You know, so there's things that we can do. But I also have concerns. This is like I said earlier, this is a report from people that know that climate change is real, and I think it's happening, and it's funny that we're having it on record-breaking hot days of the year. But what my concern is, it's from a committee that's involved. I don't know how much public engagement from the City of American Canyon we've had. And I think there's some things on here that give me pause. Some of the things around natural gas and electric, particularly for stoves and things of that, I think we should have a debate about that. Battery backup requirements. we're going to add to the cost of housing. I'm really not in favor of adding to the cost of housing already. It's expensive. Maybe that's something that the owner can do. I know there's a couple people on my street that, you know, you do enough public safety, power shutdowns, they'll go ahead and invest in that themselves for backup. So maybe more of those will get backup batteries. But like, these are the things that we have discussions. I'm in favor of a lot of this that we're already doing, but there's a few points I think that we need public input. And so my next steps, rather than, and to Council Vice Mayor Abadamas's action is actually this discussion right here. Have it. Don't declare anything. Give your ideas. Let us stew it over and think about it, and then we can come back and figure out what's implementable. And I've talked to you guys in this council a lot before. Let's take what are the small steps that we can do to affect change right now. The bike plan is probably one of those. We've already studied it. Let's get that going. Let's get green lanes in here. Let's get bike education programs in. There's no reason why we should be having traffic jams at our local schools. Those kids could be coming to school on a bike.
Sure. Bicycle pedestrian safety as well. How much could we improve bicycle if we were able to have a safe way to get across Highway 29, east-west, all that traffic backed up on it? Vice Mayor Abadamos, your hand's raised.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm totally sensing everything that Councilmember Oro just said as well. But typically when we do plans and stuff, we do include things that we're currently working on without necessarily acknowledging them until later. So I get where Councilmember Joseph is coming from as well. I like the idea of getting public input, but because this is such a massive list, I don't know how. I'm thinking maybe we should go about it in parts, right? So either bring back parts to the council with plan, funding, et cetera, everything that Councilmember Joseph mentioned, the committee is going to come back with. I like that idea, but I like that idea after getting the public input. I just wanted to mention, I saw in here about e-bikes. There's also the electric scooters, right? That are, when I was at the annual league conference, the last time I went, I don't even know when that was, pre-COVID. Actually, no, the last one last year. I ran into somebody, I think it was Lime. I'm not sure, I don't remember which company off the top of my head, but they say that they put in the scooters for free. And then you just like pay to use them. So if nobody ever uses them, it doesn't cost the city any money. They maintain them. It's way less, it's emitting way less emissions than a vehicle. It's just something that I think should be included with bikes, something to consider. And like Councilmember Oro mentioned, there are some things in here that I think require a much larger policy discussion. So I don't know. I think we should take this up in parts, maybe bring one part back per meeting, maybe have the committee come back with a plan for each part before we take up more of it, and also getting some public input on this. So I don't know if we want to narrow it down before we solicit the public input, or if we want to have a plan attached with it, or if we want to get the public input first and then attach the plan. But I think there's a lot of work that's clearly gone into this, and I think it's an excellent document. Yeah. And I appreciate all the work that's gone in.
I think maybe a way of doing that is kind of a table and a rating of it. You know, you have 30 some odd points here, make a grid, what priority out of a range of 1 to 5. How do you feel about it? And that would probably break out what things that people want to discuss in terms of order. I think that might help. I do remember that scooter presentation, though. That was very interesting. It's the company that just rents it out, and you've got your, reads your card, and you're charged a fee based on that. But I think, yeah, there has to be a way of breaking this thing down to a way that it's a lot of great ideas. I think, as Councilmember Oro pointed out, there's some easier ones to get done. The big one, of course, for me is 5 and 6. How do you get the traffic number of cars reduced? That's we've struggled with that for years. I think sometimes if you can be successful at some things, you are energized to go take on something that's a little harder project to work with. But anyway, I would agree. There has to be a way of being able to break this down into areas of interest and capacity to be able to do the work. With that, Councilmember Joseph.
Yes, I was going to suggest that we do, as I mentioned, we do have members from the committee here if they'd like to come up and make their comments or
Council ready for that? Good, very good. Please join us. Good evening, welcome again. Good to have you here.
Thank you all. Chris Benz from Napa, a member of Napa Climate Now, who served on the ad hoc committee. It's been fascinating to listen to you all talk about this. And I'd like to especially thank the staff member, and I think it was you, Mr. Hawley, who asked, what are the actions that will get us to the net zero climate pollutant goal of the climate emergency resolution? And this interim report lines out actions, those actions that the city can take. I urge you to print out the document and have it with you when you are evaluating policies and projects to see, you know, how can this project be made better by incorporating some of these climate actions. The report also points out the importance of individual actions. And because you all are respected community members, your actions and how you share those with the community is especially important. Let your neighbors know that you signed up for MCE Deep Green. Share how you cut energy use by setting your thermostat up during this brutal heat wave. And if you own an EV or a plug-in hybrid, show it off at the upcoming electric mobility event that will be on September 25th at the American Canyon Walmart Supercenter. This is an event that previously it's sponsored by Recolt Energy and the Napa Sierra Club. It's been held at the Napa Valley College for the last several years, but because of this desire to do outreach on climate actions in American Canyon, this year it's going to be at the Walmart. And come to the event even if you don't own an EV and learn about the help available via rebates and new tax breaks that can help move American Canyon residents into electric vehicles. At Napa Climate Now, we see our job as partnering with you, the decision makers, to provide information and develop community support that will help you best respond to the climate emergency. So thank you for including us on the ad hoc committee, and thank you for working on climate action. I have information about the electric mobility event that I will give to Councilmember Joseph, hopefully to be included in your city newsletter. And we hope to see you all there, all of you.
Thank you.
Are babies welcome, Chris?
Pardon? Yes.
So can I bring my baby?
Absolutely.
Yeah, more comments? Yes.
Hi, I'm Linda Brown. I'm one of the co-founders of Napa Climate Now, along with Chris and a few others, some who may be on the Zoom, I'm not sure. There's so much I want to say after listening to this conversation, but I'm going to keep my remarks within the time frame, and then perhaps there can be more conversation. First of all, thank you to council members Washington and Joseph, who really did an outstanding job in leading the ad hoc committee through its paces and discussions. What you should know about the ad hoc committee was that it didn't just we all come from different walks of life. Chris comes from the wine world. I come from the world of certifications, and you know, we all have our professional lives and experiences, but we're all unified as citizens who are concerned about doing what we need to do for climate. As are our students, the students at Schools for Climate Action. Each committee meeting was so fascinating. We brought in outside experts to talk to us about energy, about transportation, about what's going on in neighboring communities. We looked at existing ordinances that are elsewhere a lot of what you find in this list of 32, is it 32 items, are actually implemented in other places. So it's not about reinventing the wheel, it's about pulling together the things that were most applicable to this community. And it's also about the bang for the buck. My work is in climate accounting, and what I can tell you is that the reason some of these projects, particularly the ones, Councilmember Oro, that you were mentioning about natural gas, for instance, are here because methane is such a potent climate pollutant. It's even far more potent in the near term than you or anyone who does carbon footprints knows, because it's a very short-lived climate pollutant, as are some of the other pollutants, like the kinds of pollutants that come when you're idling your cars at a school. Those pollutants contribute to something called tropospheric ozone, extremely potent as a greenhouse gas. So what we tried to do are find the solutions that actually will give us the biggest bang for the buck. Now, we recognize that this report at this time doesn't contain where are we going to find the funding for this, or how are we going to prioritize. We didn't try to prioritize. We simply put together what we felt were the most applicable options for this community based on precedent that's already been established elsewhere. And I want to encourage American Canyon to take a leadership role, as you already have on gas stations, on solar installation, on new construction. You can see this better than what we've seen any of the other municipalities in this county. I would love to see this community take the leadership for our Napa County. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Yes. Hello, my name is Gopal. So I'm going to just add to some of their comments. The first is we're organizing this event at the local Walmart because Councilmember Joseph asked us to, not because we wanted to. Right? It was a specific request to have it here. So thank you for that. The event is going to be attended by Napa Valley Transportation staff so that they can promote their V-Commute or ride-sharing. Napa Valley Vine Trail, I think, is going to be coming. The Napa County Bicycle Coalition, we're going to invite, I think this is in Councilmember Joseph's task list, invite the e-bike vendors. I think there's one. Yeah, you're looking surprised, but I think there's one vendor here in American Canyon, a bike shop that's going to come to the event. But we'll invite others too. But a big portion, and I think somebody else mentioned this, is if you take an action yourself, the impact is just massive. There's something called Regeneration Napa County that is going to be rebranded Napa County Climate Challenge. Which I think Napa County is going to take over this platform. It lists something like 70 or 100 actions now that people can take to save money. And when they save money, they also reduce their emissions. Going solar, buying an electric car, walking, biking, and so forth. But it's really important that you take these actions yourself first, because if you find that it's very difficult to do it, it becomes, you have to understand that as committed as you are, for someone who isn't as committed, they're not going to take that action. So we have to reduce friction as much as we can. If I have 30 seconds more, let me say this. Most people are concerned about electric vehicles and their range and their costs and so forth. I just drove across the country and came back in an electric vehicle. I went from here to Rhode Island and came back, southern route going, northern route coming. There was no issue with charging my car. So if, and I think my fuel costs for this 3-week trip was $1,000. I zigzagged all over the place. That's the stuff that people don't know. And if I hadn't done it, I wouldn't have known if it was possible to do. So Regeneration Napa County, which is what it's called right now, please go to that site, take these actions. Try some of the actions, and if it works for you, know that it'll work for someone else. Thank you.
Gopal, I need your last name, please.
Shankar. Shanker.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers on this matter?
Yes.
Anybody
Yes, I have online. I think it's Tammy Wong. It just has initials. So TW, go ahead.
Hello. Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening, welcome.
This is indeed Tammy Wong. As many of you know, I am a resident of American Canyon, and I was very excited when I heard a few months ago that this committee was being formed. And I'm very happy that I was accepted onto the committee. It was a great process to talk through many of these, you know, these important topics and to come up with these list of ideas of things that each of us can do in our daily lives and things that, you know, our city can do as well. I learned a lot through this process, and hope, you know, and I gave a lot of input, and I was happy to see, you know, I think just about everything I suggested somehow got included. I thought it was a great process working through this with our council members and the other committee members. And I just want to say though, I am confused how this whole thing moves forward. I know it sounds like we're going to take each topic one at a time. And I guess that sounds good. I just want to know how it's going to work, and the dates, because I have mentioned this to several people. One person read it and thought the report was great and acknowledged that several of these things we're already doing. One person said, oh yeah, my background's in environmental science. I'm very interested in this. When is it going to come and be discussed? But I think we have to realize people are busy. Like the woman who's the environmental science, she works a job in Sacramento, married, 2 kids. So she's super busy, but this is her bailiwick. So I'd like to see somehow that we have these meetings formed in such a way that people can participate and give input and feel that their voice is heard, even if maybe their input is written and given offline. So maybe something to consider as we put these meetings together, that maybe we need to also go out to some places and solicit input. Maybe there should be a workshop at the high school. That would be something that I would push for, because I think this whole process was spurred by Emily and Alyssa. And look at the time now, it's 8:30 on a school night. I don't think it's going to be hard to get input from those who are impacted most by the decisions we make. So I really think I'd like to see some more thought given to prioritizing student input. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another speaker?
I do. I have Jim Wilson. Go ahead, Jim.
Thank you. Thank you all. This is Jim Wilson, Napa. I'm with Napa Climate Now, and I'm also community advisor to Napa Schools for Climate Action. And I agree with Tammy. It's so important that we recognize the students' role in this. They are our future. And I think this is why, you know, in a sense, our real goal with this net zero 2030 target, the goal of all of humanity has to be restoring our atmosphere to something close to pre-industrial levels. And so we're talking about, first of all, not doing any further harm. And we're talking about like drastically cutting the emissions that we have, you know. And I picture American Canyon as being this really nice, compact city that would be unified around this carbon budget. So eventually we're all conversant in it and pretty expert in certain areas. And then we have to, we actually have to, you know, restore a safe and livable climate for our kids and all of the kids who come after them. But I just wanted to say that I've been watching your meetings now via Zoom for 2 years, and I've watched you counsel change, and you know, I've seen you go from sort of like half interested and half willing or reluctant to do what's necessary here to actually being leaders, and I've seen several of you change. I've seen you all change, and you're dealing with such a frustrating topic here, and it's awkward to talk about how we're going to do all this at once. And I liked what David Oro said a minute ago about your water management plan, where you're punching above your weight oftentimes. And I also heard him say that in some respects, American Canyon leads, as it does. And I want to say, and I want to echo Tammy's words when she said that you really broke things loose and began to move things along for the youth group. When you went from a climate emergency proclamation, you struggled with how to make it a real directive resolution, and you did that in the creation of the Ad Hoc Climate Action Committee, which you put 2 students on. I'm on that committee, and I appreciate that. But from there, you sparked that kind of action and say willingness, institutional willingness, that really got, I think, Calistoga and St. Helena, Yountville, Napa, now the County of Napa, to follow and do the same thing, more or less. But everybody with the 2030 deadline. And then 2 weeks ago, Napa County RCD did the same thing in response to you, their valued customers and partners in restoring a livable climate. RCD also is the first in the state. Napa
Jim,
County
you're at time.
To call for the 2030 deadline. But I do appreciate your leadership and punching above your weight.
Thank you. Do we have another speaker?
I do. We have Chris James. Chris, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thanks for letting us speak tonight. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, if you could pump the volume up just a little bit.
Okay, it's all okay. I'll
That's
try and talk
better.
a little louder then. So I appreciate the discussion tonight, and I was really excited to see this committee being formed all those months ago. I've spoken to a number of committee members over the months and seen some of the work, and ultimately I was very impressed with the draft report. I can't believe how much work has gone into it. I see that a lot of these things are personal things, actions that we can take. If we ask everyone to do everything, I think that would break people's brains, right? So I think it's baby steps. There's a lot of education involved in this, and each one of these projects could turn into a dozen other projects potentially, right? So this isn't a definitive list, right? Things are going to evolve, new technology is going to evolve, things will change. So I don't think it's the job is done just by publishing this list. We needed to have actions on it, like Pierre Washington said, we ultimately there will be projects and goals set on this. But as far as I think it's important that the city staff and everyone that works in the city, when they work on projects, wears glasses or lenses. I think it was Jim that told me once. Every project should be viewed through the lens of climate and the cause or effect on the climate. And so I think that's really important, and even with our individual actions. So I really want to thank Mark. I know he's gone above and beyond trying to pull this together, and I'm hoping that council members can participate maybe offline, maybe join the committee to give some more feedback rather than trying to hash it out in like an hour or two in one of these open sessions like this, but to have a more thoughtful discussion offline during the future committee meetings. So again, thank you so much for everyone for working on this.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Yes. Okay, I have a dial-in speaker, area code 415. You can go ahead, but please state your name.
Hi there. Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Great. Thanks so much. Hi, this is Kara Werner with the Napa County Bicycle Coalition. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I just first want to say thanks to the committee for creating such a great draft plan. We were thrilled to see in the transportation section how much it was focused on promoting biking in American Canyon, which makes a ton of sense for the reasons that Councilmember Oro cited about the town being flat and a beautiful climate. And I loved his comment about being a bike first community. That seems like a very good possibility in a town like American Canyon. And there's so many promising efforts underway that these action items can sort of leverage. For example, the state is about to start administering a $10 million e-bike rebate program. A lot of these strategies are really gaining a lot of momentum in other places as well that I think could help buoy the efforts in American Canyon. I did want to bring up just 2 points I'm hoping that folks would consider. The transportation section is really pretty heavily focused on infrastructure, on improving infrastructure for bicycles and pedestrians, and I think that's hugely, hugely important. But as Councilmember Washington noted, this requires a change in lifestyle, and change like that really requires other things besides infrastructure. It requires education, it requires encouragement. So our work, for example, on safe routes to schools, that program has about 6 different components, and engineering is just one of those. And one of those components actually is engagement, and that's come up a lot in this conversation so far. Is the public engaged? Have we gotten their opinion? And we would love to see this volunteer support group that is potentially going to be tasked with monitoring actions become a standing advisory committee. So I had reached out, I've been trying to figure out what's happening with the open space advisory committee, because I know there's been conversation about whether or not that committee can represent bicycles, and I'm not sure yet. I haven't determined what's happening there. I haven't gotten that information yet. But I think that having an advisory committee is an ongoing and really powerful way for the people to have input into this work as it moves forward. I've seen how well it works in some of the other jurisdictions and would love to see that happen in American Canyon, so folks can have an ongoing say as things are being implemented, and not just sort of at the beginning or once something is all the way through the design phase, for example. So we just wanted to mention that, and also mention that we have had quite a bit of input already, particularly on the strategy of increasing walking and biking to school. We did walk audit reports that engaged stakeholders locally, students, parents, school staff on
Karen,
what that looks
I'm
like.
sorry, you're at time.
Oh, okay. Well, we're having a safety summit on September 27th at the middle school. I hope you'll join us. Thank you for your consideration of our comments.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
I have no more hands raised.
Very good. Anybody from the audience want to comment this evening? Public comment is open. Please come to the podium.
Good evening, Melissa Lamatina, longtime resident, passionate about my community. Anyways, my 3 main concerns are water supply, air quality, and power, electricity. I have a house that I've been in for 28 years, and I need a new roof. And I want solar, and I was at Costco, and they had this solar company there, and then I investigated them, and they're going broke. And as I talk to people in the community, and like myself, I think we're confused on which direction to go. Like, we need a little more education and a little guidance. I want to buy a bike. Do I get an e-bike or a regular bike? Can I ride my e-bike on the trails? When's the trail going to get finished? Those kind of things, I think there's some confusion in the community, and we need some education. So I really hope that we involve the community a little bit more moving forward with ideas and things like that to build up our community. And I'm really proud of us with our recycled water. Mine's getting delivered tomorrow. But yeah, people ask, what are those barrels in your yard? And I explained to my coworkers that live in Napa, and they're just like, wow, you guys are doing big things. And I think we are, but let's set the bar high. Let's have a really big vision, and let's go for it. But please include the community and get some suggestions from us. Thank you.
All right, thank
Melissa,
you.
could I get your last name again? Sorry.
Yeah, Lamatina, Lamatttina.
Thank you.
Any other speakers?
Nope.
Okay. Seeing none, we'll close public comment at this time. Return to council for further discussion. I think it's been a very robust conversation. I would characterize it that way. And I think there is some very good outcome from this. I think one thing that would be interesting, particularly to me, for implementation, what's the cost? Am I going to buy a Tesla? What's going to cost me, or a plug-in hybrid? Can I afford it? You know, if I'm going to put solar on my roof, what's it going to cost? There's a lot of programs out there. And I think to further develop this thing, it'd be some economics in the picture. I like replacing equipment with battery powered. You know, I see if you got a lawnmower, I got a weed whacker, I got an air blower. I now have a battery powered air blower. And the other two items are, it goes in the shop about every 2 or 3 years. Somebody has to clean it all out. It costs me $70. The fuel to power it is over $20 a gallon. But the cost of it is about twice the cost of a battery, is about twice the cost of a gas-powered one. They're coming down. But I think there's efforts like that. Maybe there's a venue at Walmart again on the price of different types of equipment, because Tractor Supply is pretty close, maybe over to Tractor Supply. They sell the equipment too. I hope the bicycle event that's there is going to have a cost of bicycles there, and what that might mean to you in terms of your daily routine. When I mentioned at this audience, the council's heard me before. First 2-3 years in college, well, where I lived and where I went to college and where I went to work were all within about 1.5 miles. And the bar we hung out in for pool and beers was in between the two. So I gave my car to my sister. She was going to college, needed a car. So it's very doable. And I think that type of information, economic impact, how doable is some of this, ought to be a piece of that picture as we begin to flesh it out. Other comment from council? Councilmember Joseph.
Yes. Well, having heard everything, you know, ignoring the fact that I think there's some misunderstandings, what I am hearing is we want to break it into smaller pieces. We want to have more public dialogue. So perhaps what we might do is break this into 4 general categories: transportation, building, renewable energy, and then all other. And each of those has a public engagement component. And so if you see it as kind of a matrix where you might talk about some of the specific actions that were identified, but also looking at it through the prism of public engagement, we could schedule a mini workshop or something that we could address all of these, basically 3 and then a catch-all. And certainly have public workshops, including the schools. But again, right now, all that we have is kind of a 3-line description. You know, had we gone into a lot of history and background, this wouldn't have been a 13-page report. It would have been a 20 or 30-page report. And I suspect 13 was more than enough to start with. So it was intended to be brief, and it was still a rather long document because there's so much to cover. But before we try to go into the nuts and bolts, perhaps we take a break and do 3 or 4 public workshops on each of these different categories, and get that public input and feedback, get a better dialogue, because I think there's a lot of material in here, and the comments that I received from the committee were very gratifying in that there's just a lot of pieces, and it's hard to summarize it in 30 seconds or less. There's a lot of material here. There's a lot that went into it. It's just a very important issue. And the fact that we're talking about it in a mega drought on the hottest day of the, that I can remember here, is maybe nature's way of saying, take this seriously or else. And I would like to go with the take this seriously. And maybe breaking it up into these small pieces is the way to go forward in a manner that will work for everybody.
I appreciate your direction on that. I think, again, a piece that's missing for me is cost. Yeah, some projection. How much does it cost? How's it, is it realistically? I can't afford a Tesla. Yeah, good. Show me the plan. I would like, if that's viable for other people, then that needs to be part of the conversation. Get an electric vehicle. Other one for me is, of course, now we have threatened public safety power shut off due to the excessive heat. What's our generating capacity for electricity? What's the source for it? Solar is a small piece of it, as I understand it. So, what's this? Natural gas, right? Hydroelectric, that's clean.
Are we engaging in a discussion?
I'll just say, we'll have a discussion offline. Appreciate hearing more about it. That needs to be in the discussion that we're having with the public. Because concern would be, all right, already we have to have we have a higher rate between 4 o'clock and 9 at night now. Right now, we're going to extend that to 10 because it's power emergency. That tells me maybe we don't have enough power out there to charge cars and stuff. So that's a conversation that we need to get past with the information that provides useful information to people. I think more of a pragmatic side of it is where I'm looking at it. Okay. Any other comment on this? Oh, I'm sorry. Vice Mayor Albadamas, you're there.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm easily forgotten way up here on the screen.
No, I'm sorry. You know what? If I don't see your hand, please communicate.
Oh, you're
verbally.
totally fine. I just wanted to, again, thank everybody that worked on this. I think it's a great start. I heard Councilmember Joseph say that this is just a check-in and there's more work to be done. So from a council member's perspective, my perspective, I think this is a great start. And I like the idea of breaking it down into categories. The 4 categories that you mentioned, Councilmember Joseph, are fine with me. I definitely think that the next step would be to go back to the committee and come up with an implementation plan. Clearly, the less funding that the city has to come up with and the less staff time we have to give, the more likely it is to come to fruition more quickly. So just a little bit of advice there, but that would be the direction that I would give if that's what's being solicited. So thank you again. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everybody who's there and working on this stuff for us. We appreciate you and all of your hard work.
Very good. Other comments? This is the receive and file?
Yes, but I guess my question is, this idea of breaking it into 4 components and engaging the public for input, if that's a viable strategy, the question is, who does that? The committee, staff, somebody else? If it is staff, then we are getting into that, what's staff's priorities? So I can't speak for the committee, but I think they're pretty committed that you know, we could probably take that project on in terms of soliciting input and refining what we're doing based on that input. Now, costs and other issues, as pointed out in the interim report, specifically weren't developed at this point because we wanted feedback on the ideas.
Of course.
Yeah.
But going forward, you'll need it.
Yeah. So I you know, listen, I think breaking it down is a logical next step, because we need to be able to, you know, take bites of something that we can chew. You know, my only other caution, I think you heard it today, is, you know, let's acknowledge the good that we're doing. And, you know, I know the mayor's brought up costs, but I'm not too worried about that, because that's the next deliberation that we should be having, right? And, you know, find us things. My advice and work would be, if you break it down in parts, you know, knock out the things that can easily be done. Let's have some quick wins along the way, and I think there's plenty to do that, particularly on the transportation side. But yeah, it makes sense to me. I would say, you know, I think I heard your comments earlier about, you know, wanting more staff here. I would encourage staff to help set up those public meetings and do that, and then maybe it's led by the Climate Action Committee members and others. I'm totally down with that. I would love to see some of these ideas come back and implemented.
Very good.
Thank you.
Councilmember Washington?
Yeah, I'd just like to go back to my original part by saying that, you know, I just think that, educating our community. It's a big change. It's a society that needs to be educated to buy into it, and they're not just going to buy in to us telling them to do it. We have to educate them to see what the benefit is. I mean, we already see how hard it is to get cash for grass right now, to say how that benefits the, climate. So I get what we're trying to do. It's just that I think we just need to spoon feed. We need to be able to educate, lead by example. We need to, when we are talking to people inside their homes, we need to be explaining to them the rationale of why we're trying to do what we're doing and the benefit to them, versus just saying this is what you will do, this is what you have to do. It's more scare tactics, and I guess a lot of people, they may not even come to these city council meetings for those same reasons. A lot of people feel as though we're here to provide scare tactics. But I think it's more accepted when people see the benefit for themselves. I mean, it's just like you just said, you can afford to get a Tesla. I got one. But if you've seen his car, you know why he doesn't have a Tesla. But that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, anything further? Receive and file?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Joseph asked if the Climate Action Committee or if staff should take on the soliciting the public. I love the idea of doing it at the high school and having the Climate Action Committee take it on. I really don't think, the only thing that I can envision you maybe need staff for is to spread the word, send it in the newsletter, in the city manager's email blasts. But I think that would be a great project for the Climate Action Committee.
Sounds like a plan.
Yes, sir.
See heads nodding up and down. Okay. So we've received, we will file, and we have a plan moving forward. Good. I can't wait to see this till we get this thing fleshed out a little more. Oh, by the way, achievements in American Canyon. The Doubletree Hotel, formerly the Gaia, is the first LEED certified hotel in the North Bay. Oh, we've accomplished something. All right, thank you. We will move on to our next item then.
Thank you,
for
Mayor and
coming
Council. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Director Kita is going to come and present this next item, which relates to the relocation of the skate park. I think she has a couple of slides for you.
Right.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm here this evening to talk to you about the skateboard park relocation project that we are proposing to you this evening. Currently, as you know, the skate park is currently located behind the American Canyon Middle School and the Philip West Aquatic Center. The skate park has been there for several years. It's been identified as a temporary location, and the current footprint is about 12,900 square feet, as you can see in this photo. On August 3rd, I met with our Parks and Community Services Commission, and we discussed 4 potential locations to relocate the skate park to. The 4 locations were, one location was at Silver Oak Park, and that had 2 potential opportunities there. The other one was Napa Junction School, with the idea of the property exchange going through. That could have been a potential location because of the size of the property, and just trying to imagine what we could do there currently right now. And then the last 2 locations were the property across the street from Napa Junction, which is the old abandoned house that we have a project scheduled for this year to demolish that home. And the last location is going to be Veterans Park, that has 2 locations. All 4 of these locations have unique characteristics. We discussed each of those places as we go back to, so I'm going to scroll back and talk about. So for Silver Oak Park, this was, we talked a lot about it, but the commission came down to it not being the ideal location because it's right there next to a school. It is an LLAD park, so that would bring up some other conversations of how would we maintain it, what would happen with the LLAD. And so it just didn't feel like that was an easy conversation. And then the Napa Junction School, although there is a lot of opportunity there, there are some challenges with this property. It is set back. It is not in a visible location. We would most likely need to have park hours, which would kind of deter what we're trying to do right now, which is have the skate park be open from sunrise to sunset like most of our parks and not have to have it fenced, which is one of the major challenges that we are having right now. It's closed during school hours, it's fenced. And we do, with skate parks, it is a multi-generational park amenity. It's not just kids that utilize it, it's actually various ages that enjoy that amenity. Then with the property right across the street from Old Napa Junction, it backs up to the church. So the commission was a little concerned of the logistics of that skate park being located next to a church property, which is actually a school as well, and just thought that would be a little disruptive. And in their opinion, it's on the furthest part of the city, so it would be difficult for younger users to be able to get there easily. Veterans Park, there's two opportunities here. One was located by the dog park, and then one was located by the bocce ball courts, and also the parking lot. Option B, which I mislabeled in this thing that I'm realizing now, I apologize. The option B, which is located near the dog park, it is in a visible location. However, there isn't a lot of parking that would require street parking. And so they just didn't feel conducive. Like if people were driving there, it just wouldn't be conducive to accessibility if somebody was on foot or on their skateboard. Option A was what they came up with as the recommendation. Due to the size of the lot, it gives a little bit more flexibility. That specific space is roughly about 18,000 square feet. We are recommending to have something similar and comparable to what we have right now, which is going to be about a 13,000 square foot concrete pad. And so we thought that could easily fit within that location. It's in a visible and accessible location. It has parking, and there's just a little bit more flexibility there. So that's why they came up with that being the potential recommendation to relocate the skate park. The physical impact to relocating the skate park, what we're asking is for $380,000 for this project. That does include $96,000 to move that skate park from its current location to the new location, and it does not include tax or the idea that there may be some replacements that may need to happen just based off of normal wear and tear. There is the estimated cost of installing a concrete pad, which is going to be $234,000, and that's at $18 a square foot. That is on the higher end. I worked with Erica Smithies, our public works director, and she gave me a quote that concrete is anywhere between $16 to $18 per square foot, and so I went with the higher option, just erring on a side of caution. And then we did include a 15% contingency, and that would include any unexpected costs for the project. I'm currently working right now with the American Ramp Company. They're the company that we used in the past when we installed the skate park at the middle school. And right now they are scheduling out 3 to 6 months out. So the earliest we would be looking at would be mid-December to early February to get this scheduled, and then it does take a full 45 days for them to assemble the skate park at that location. So once we get it on the books, it would take them 45 days to move it and reassemble it. However, we're not really concerned about that timeline because we do need to find a contractor to install a concrete pad. That is the first step to this project, and that would allow us an opportunity to secure a contractor, get that going, and then if the recommendation this evening is to put out a notice, that would give us ample amount of time to notify the residents around that location. So for this evening, we are recommending that you amend the fiscal year 22-23 capital improvement program to include the skate park relocation project and authorize a project budget of $380,000. Authorize a budget transfer from the Park Impact Fund fee to the Capital Project Fund fee in the amount of $380,000. Select an existing park location for the skate park relocation project with the recommendation of that being Veterans Park. And then authorizing the city manager to award a construction contract to the lowest responsible and responsive bidder in the amount to not to exceed the project budget. And lastly, authorizing the public works director to approve and execute a contract change orders in an aggregate amount not to exceed the project budget in conjunction with the relocation of the skate park project. And I am here to answer any questions that you may have this evening.
Well, looks like the optimal site to relocate. Thank you. Councilmember Washington.
And good evening, Ally. Two questions real quick. For section A and B, would there be plans also to add additional parking specifically for the park? And
Councilmember Washington, I think you may need to turn your microphone on.
Oh, am I not on?
Oh, there you go.
Just
There you go.
move it.
There we go.
closer.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, would there be additional parking for vehicles to park there for people specifically going for the skateboard park to not interfere with the veterans? And would they also be including like bicycle racks to have them secure their vehicles while they're skating, their bikes while they're skating?
Understood. So the current project that we're proposing to you this evening does not include the addition of any additional parking spaces to that area. We would be utilizing the current parking lot as well as street parking to accommodate that additional amenity. We can absolutely look into that if that's something that we would like to do, but that's not included in this project presented to you this evening. Regarding the bike racks, I know working with Erica, she has mentioned that we wanted to do an assessment of all of our parks and figure out which locations don't currently have that, so we can absolutely include that into this assessment.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Oro.
Yeah, thank you for the report, and you know, I'm glad we're moving quickly on this. I think at the council direction, I remember when we were first talking about the land exchange with Napa Valley Unified School District, and I said, we got to figure out where to put that skate park right away. And I want to thank staff for prioritizing this and actually having a plan for it. I think some skaters will be a little upset for 6 months, but hopefully they'll have a better and bigger park to do something on it. So thank you for that. We are recommending A on your screen, right? You did talk about an error.
Yes, I'm sorry. I think yes. So it's going to be option A on my screen, which is the location closest to the parking lot.
But not the whole thing.
So that entire section is 18,000 square feet. What we're proposing this evening to you is to create a 13,000 square foot concrete pad. So depending on when we go out there and assess, because we're going to want to look at grading and probably back away from the fence line and figure out the optimal design of how we want to do that. We want to just fit it within that spot.
But most of the skate park will be ramps. We're not digging a bowl in there or anything like that, are we?
No, so it's just, we're going to be installing the concrete pad. The physical equipment is not concrete. It is movable for this.
So it's the ramp company work
Correct.
that's currently that we see out there.
Correct.
Okay, I was getting all excited about a bowl or something like that.
No, we're not doing that.
That would be a lot more money.
Yeah. That's what Erica thought too, and I was like, no.
Yeah, that would be cool. So thank you. Yeah, hey, it's not me. It's just watching them do it. So.
Oh, okay. Councilmember Joseph.
Yes, I would agree the Veterans Park option A is probably the ideal spot. And maybe if there's some room for parking down the road, although I realize that's not a cheap item either. Just for a historical context, I think it was Stravinsky Development Company that actually poured the slab 20 plus years ago and donated it. And now, given today's costs, I'm really appreciative of their donation, because I was thinking this was a $100,000 project, and now it's almost 400. So that's a big swallow, but it's the right thing to do in the right location. So I'm on board.
Remember, the kids came to city council and wanted a skate park.
Yeah.
Well, you come up with a pad. They got a hold of Stravinsky. Yeah. All right, there's $100,000 there. That just
So I do appreciate how quickly we've gotten onto this and have a package. So thank you very much.
Councilmember Washington.
One more thing, Ally, I was going to ask about lighting. It's so close to 29. Are we planning for some lighting that would not disrupt the traffic on 29, but illuminate the actual area so we know what's going on inside there?
So that is not part of this project. Currently, right now, the idea is that we would relocate it to this location, and it would be open during our current park hours, which is from sunrise to sunset. And it would not be fenced, so it would be open to the general public. So to answer your question, we did not include lighting in this plan.
Mr. Mayor, one suggestion though, because I understand there's no budget for that, but there is an electrical connection by the bocce court. I would encourage us to at least run a line out so that there is electricity there, so that at some point in the future, you know, if it makes sense, the line's there.
I'm just wondering about after-hours activity on there and what kind of a problem that might present with behaviors, et cetera.
Yeah, so part of this project, I don't mean to interrupt you, Mayor, but when we were looking at all 4 of these locations, I had submitted it out to our police chief, as well as the public works director, our maintenance utilities director, for their feedback and comments. And out of all the locations, I'm going to put the police chief on the spot. He felt that this was the best location because it is visible. It's in an active location, and it is there is a residential area right there in front, so I think that will be helpful as well.
Okay, just cautionary note, we might want to decide to have that something where we can monitor it a little easier. I would trust the police chief's assessment of it. All right, thank you. So, anything further from council?
Mr. Mayor, my hand is raised.
We got the public comment now?
My hand is raised.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. There you are.
It's okay.
Now we can see you.
I was just wondering why other locations such as Com Park 2 or the park on Elliott weren't considered.
So Com Park 2 is our park that we typically use for our large community events, and we felt that putting something like that would prohibit the flexibility for us to be able to do the July 4th celebration. And then Elliott Park, Jason,
as it relates to Elliott Park, I think we felt, I don't know that we scoured the earth for every location in American Canyon. I think we came up with the ones that made the most sense. At Elliott Park, there is amenities in the area, and I think we felt like it wasn't as centrally located, although Veterans Park itself is not all that centrally located. So, there are, what we had to balance with this process was expediency versus brainstorming. And so, undoubtedly there were other locations we could have evaluated. We didn't do a lot of public engagement on this, and that's the other caveat that I would say is we didn't go through a public engagement process, that we might otherwise would have. So we kind of picked out the locations we were thinking about and kind of made our judgment calls there.
Understood. Thank you.
If I can throw in a historical context again, the original skate park, we did look at a number of sites, including that Elliott Drive, the PG&E power line terrain. And it was one of the preferred sites, but at the end of the day, it would also be, you'd have homes backed up on both sides. And the concern was you might get a lot of negative feedback from some of the residents. So again, I think given the circumstances, the timing, urgency, and so forth, I think the Veterans Park is kind of the optimal site. So that's
Any response from the mobile home residents across the street?
like Jason commented, we didn't really do the public outreach that we would typically do with a project like this based off of the feedback that we received that this is something that we wanted to move quickly on. So if that is the direction for us to go out and do that public outreach, I think we can absolutely do that. That would allow us some time to notify them that this would be happening.
Yeah.
But no, we did not do that, to answer your question at this time.
I think it would be wise to do that.
I'm sorry?
I would think it would be wise to do that.
Yeah, and we do have some time.
My neighborhood, and nobody ever tells me anything type of issues, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the intention, Mayor, is this process, like Director Akita noted, the contractor, the vendor we want to use to move the existing equipment is booked out for several months. And so between now and then, we got to get the site prepped, engaging the neighbors across the street, or all of those.
All going to be part of the process.
All those going to be part of the process.
Thank you very much. Good. Okay, Councilmember Oro.
Just a quick comment, piggybacking on, choosing of the park. Personally, I love the fact that we are putting something new in an underutilized park. Veterans Park has been a frustration for me because, there's parts of, like that dog park could be double the size. There's a spot in there that's right in the middle. And I'm like, oh, you should just make it a big, gigantic dog park instead of a smaller one. So now we're a little bit closer. I know there's 2 underutilized parcels at Veterans Park. And I know we're going to do good things with them one day. Skate park's a great start.
Good. Council ready for public comment? Any public comment on this matter? Yes?
We'll take in person first.
Beth Marcus, only had a couple concerns. One, they were talking earlier about the homeless shelter that's going to be down further. Is there any concern about that? Number 2, I go along with the mayor. I think the Las Casitas Park should probably be contacted because they are older residents and it does make a lot of noise. And then the other thing would be, it's so close to the highway, would be a concern. That's my only, but I God love you for trying to find a place because it's not easy. And good luck if that's not the right place. We're sitting here trying to think of some place too, but good luck.
My only comment is, it's not centrally located, and it's kind of out of the way, the Veterans Park. I don't know, maybe that's just my opinion. I don't know where we'd put it either. We were trying to figure out a good place, but I just think it should be more central, where the kids could go, maybe, I don't know, maybe down by the, whatever happened to the ranch that you guys were going to do down there. Yeah, I don't know. That's just my opinion. I think it should be a little bit more central. Thank you.
Thank you.
But it sounds good.
Councilmember Oro, another comment?
Yeah, I just want to quickly comment. Yeah, I think everybody's concerned about the project on the Vallejo side, first of all. And I don't think it should prevent us from building the city we want to live in. And then to Fran's point about the location, I hear you, but Napa's Kennedy Park is way out of the way from residents. They're by the softball fields, by the Napa College. Place is perpetually packed. Skaters skate, and they'll find a place to get there. But only that, none of that, having skated in my past life, having a 7-Eleven close by is going to be awesome. So.
It is adjacent to the Vine Trail. The segment of sidewalk that's widened all the way parallel there to Veterans Park is adjacent to a Class 1 bicycle facility known as the Vine Trail.
And they have their own mode of transportation to get there, too.
Yeah.
Skateboard. Okay. Any more public comment?
Mayor Garcia, I just want to note, we did have a late written comment from Kim McDonald. It was emailed out to everyone earlier this evening.
All right. Thank you.
And I have no one else online with hands raised.
Very good. If there's no more public comment, then we will close public comment. Turn to council for further action. We have a resolution, if council is so inclined. Who wants to read this long thing?
I'll read it.
Yeah, come here.
Love you, man. I appreciate you. I make a motion for resolution number 2022 next in order, a resolution of the City Council of the City of American Canyon, 1, amending the fiscal year 2022-23 capital improvement program to include the skate park location project, PR 22-0100, and authorizing a project budget of $380,000. 2, authorizing a budget transferring from Park Impact Fee Fund 30-85-450-48310 to the Capital Project Fund, Fund 350-85-450-46110 in the amount of $380,000. 3, selecting an existing park location for the skate park location project PR 22-0100. And 4, authorizing the city manager to award the construction contract for the lowest or to the lowest responsible and responsive bidder in the amount to not exceed the project budget. And finally, 5, authorizing the Public Works Director to approve and execute contract change orders in the aggregate amount not to exceed the project budget in conjunction with the skate park location or relocation.
I'll second that.
Motion second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Joseph,
Yes.
Councilmember Oro,
Yes.
Councilmember Washington,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Abadamas,
Yes.
Mayor Garcia.
Yes. Thank you, Council. Yeah, somebody's very busy there tonight. Okay, we're moving on now to management staff oral reports.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Speaking of pedestrian and safety improvements, Director Smithies has an update for everyone, and then also I think Director Akita has some updates on events.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. Eric Almond Smithies, Public Works Director. Just wanted to announce that as of last week, we completed the paving and the sidewalk gap closure on Eucalyptus. We are going to probably be finishing up with some punch list items, striping, of course, and I think there's like a water box adjustment, but we're planning on having, since it's such a big step forward on the street, that we're a long overdue project, that we're planning a small ribbon cutting ceremony, probably the week of the 19th. So be prepared to get an email. And then also recycled pipeline water. I heard there was inquiry on the dates. We're still looking at a late November, probably winter delivery on our recycled pipe and fittings. That's been our biggest holdout and lead time, is manufacturers are not wanting to commit. They're giving us these 24, 26 week lead time for deliveries and won't promise to bring it any more sooner because of probably COVID, staffing shortages. We're all experiencing that issue. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news for that, but we're working on it. We're on them every 3 weeks. I had to laugh at an email thread I saw today at how often the construction manager on the project from the city is emailing and contacting the manufacturer and the contractor. So we're on it. We're kind of strapped until we get a delivery date on that. And pavement management project, we're underway with construction sidewalk, and paving treatment should start in another 3 weeks. So be prepared for more public outreach on the neighborhoods that we impacted by the road closures or lane closures in the weeks ahead. And we're going out to bid later this week on the Wetlands Edge, the cul-de-sac there at the end in front of Napa Junction. And then working on the next project is the undergrounding of Green Island Road, and we're supposed to be out to advertise by next week, so stay tuned. Thank you. Any comments or questions?
I do have a question. I think we had a resident come in, talk about Newell Drive Extension and Ferentino Court and the connection there. I know staff, I responded, and I contacted the developer. I didn't hear from him. And she seems to think that everybody reached out to her, which sounds awesome. Can we get an insight or updates onto that so I don't have to follow up?
Sure, we definitely did follow up. We can't respond to all, especially when we have 5 council members from the member of public emailing us. So we did make contact several times with her and let her know and thanked her because it was brought to our attention that they'd overlooked the connection in their form pour, but then they said they were going to come back because there is a grade difference between the existing and the new extension. when they submit for their landscaping plan, they will be tying that in and also addressing what kind of wall treatment are they putting in for the replacement for the fence. So it was a good timing on her part, so we don't overlook that when we get the final landscaping treatment.
So there will be a connection from that cul-de-sac
Yes.
to that?
Yes. That's always
Okay.
been the plan. It was in the approved plans, just wasn't notated when they did the form pour. So I'm glad she reached out to us.
Awesome.
Very
Thank
timely.
you.
Very good, very good. Wetlands Edge Trail, is that on the south end where it makes the bend?
The circle, the court, it connects up, so the school only did the drive extension on the north end of Wetlands Edge.
Oh, okay.
But this will actually put a proper cul-de-sac, so then you're not breaching and reaching across and tying into the paintball park.
Okay.
So there'll be a nice finished edge, and then also the storm drainage out there, addressing storm drainage.
Yeah, there's the south end, well over a year ago, somebody ran through and knocked over a lot of those posts, all the cable wires down. I mentioned it to Mr. Hawley, I think, some time ago.
We'll look into that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. Well, thank you for the report.
Good evening, I'm back. I am the fund department, so I have to let everybody know what's going on here
Right,
in the
cool.
next couple weeks. So from September 8th through September 10th, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m., the Friends of American Canyon Library will be hosting a book sale at the American Canyon Library. On September 10th, the city, my department, will be hosting a parents' getaway. It is the Sweet Treats event program, and it's going to be from 4:30 to 10 p.m. Registration is required, but we are encouraging parents, if they want to get out, this is the night to do it. Drop your kids off, we'll entertain them, we'll feed them, we'll have some fun. On September 11th, the American Canyon Fire Protection District, along with the American Canyon Police Department, will be hosting a 9/11 remembrance ceremony and moment of silence at 11 a.m. at the fire station, right? Thank you. Public safety. I did not write that down. I apologize. And then also on 9/11, Seroptimus of American Canyon will be hosting a grandparent celebration day from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. at Community Park 1. That is a free event. Come on down. And then on September 17th, the City of American Canyon will be hosting our annual, along with partnering with the California Coastal Commission, our Coastal Cleanup Day from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. We are currently looking for volunteers. If you would like to volunteer, please visit the city's website. Yes, sir.
Just raising my hand to volunteer.
Please visit the city's website. You can register online through Civic Rec. If you click the tab that says volunteers at the top, you'll see all of our volunteer opportunities. And then also during that day, which is open to all Napa County residents, we are going to be hosting a free waste tire event. And that is going to be held at the held in the Philip West Aquatic Center parking lot. And there is a limit to 9 tires per vehicle. However, multiple vehicles can go through. You just can only drop off 9 tires at a time. And that's it. Don't miss out on the fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Hawley?
That's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Now we're on to council and comments, committee reports, and we'll take up future agenda items after that. Who'd like to go first?
Well, because I forgot to do, well, didn't forget, just ran out of time and didn't turn in my report.
Okay, go ahead.
I wanted to highlight the biggest thing for me, at least, along with the mayor and his wife. Cheryl and I attended the City Pack Bocce Tournament last Saturday, and we at least came in, we made it to the semis, so we represented American Canyon with pride. And we tied, but didn't win the tie. So some other group went on and won. We don't know. We didn't pay attention. So that was the big thing there. I was going to mention the electric mobility event that Gopal mentioned, Sunday, September 25th at the Walmart from 1 to 4 p.m. And going forward, there's also a marching band event, and I don't know if that's a future item or just a comment. It seems as if our marching band is going to be part of a parade and all that on November 12th.
Is that the contest they do every year?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so it
right.
just seemed like that's something we ought to sponsor or be engaged in.
Yeah.
I don't even know if we need to necessarily agendize it as much as.
It's activity usually, because it involves all bands in the region.
Right.
Last
so-
year was at, some years it's hosted here, some years it's hosted in.
Well, apparently this one, it's
Roundabout.
going to be hosted here, so.
Okay, good, yeah.
We should go be a part of it.
Yeah. It's a
and-
drill team type of performance.
Yeah,
It's really worth
so it'll be a
watching,
lot of
yeah.
fun. So those are my comments.
Okay. Councilmember Washington?
No comments.
Okay. I had two events I attended. One was the State Route 37. Moving forward, first part of the presentation was evaluating at a very technical level all the proposed alternatives and pointing out what criteria they met and where they didn't meet it, and coming down, it came down basically to the one we have been pursuing all along, the causeway going from Vallejo to 121. That's Infineon Raceway. So it's an elevated causeway. They validated the fact that what we've been talking about all along meets the criteria as best we can. To begin with, they're going to build a bridge over Tulicate Creek, which will have the configuration for accommodating the lanes as the causeway is built. And that's the first part of the project. Tulicate Creek, if you're familiar with it, is real close to the railroad track and 121, 37, very prone to flooding. And particularly if you have right now a high tide and a rain, there's water. So at times that area is closed, and it's a very, very long route away to get from here to, say, Novato, Petaluma, Marin County. Second one was from the North Bay Watershed Association, talking about issues with water quality and management in cities. Complaints from homeowners, particularly in older cities. It's the plumbing from what they call the premise plumbing in the houses. A lot of it's old, leaking pipes. Did point out the fact that in the Midwest, years back, they required everybody to have lead pipes. And now we know the problem with that. And have to treat it, water treatment without the phosphate in it, the lead leaches out, gets in the water supply. So it was a very interesting conversation, engaged a lot in what are we going to do with recycled water. As I mentioned earlier, well, truth is, folks, all water is recycled. And it's just a matter of being able to address that. I'm pleased to see that the issue with water management report that we had earlier points out our, I think, very lead position in a lot of ways in terms of how we're addressing that, using more recycled water. I hadn't realized, I was over at Village at Vintage Ranch, all those toilets are on recycled water as well. So when you want to save water capacity, then it's projects like that that puts us in a better position. Like you pointed out earlier, we increased the number of houses, but the amount of water we have is actually less. Something that would be helpful, I think, because I'm paying my water bill today, it's measured in units. And the other one is 55 gallons a day or less per person. But I'm trying to calculate, okay, I see it's on units on my bill. So how many gallons does that represent? Well, down at the bottom it says that's 760 some odd gallons per unit. We'll do the math. I think there was some way that if we could put in a bill that here's how you can calculate this, easy enough to see if you're doing 55 gallons. The insert was, I was just trying to make it easier on folks to monitor it. Of course, in our ability to monitor online our water consumption is useful. And that would conclude my reports. Any future agenda items? Going on. Okay, good. Well, thank you all. A very productive meeting, I felt. And we have concluded our business for the evening. We are adjourned.
Good night, American Canyon.
Thank you. Good night.
All right. catch up with you in, oh, she's gone. Yes, because I'm not going to be around.
Typos in two different resolutions that Teresa's gonna go through.
Yeah. Yeah, no,